Chapter 476. Mang Tong's face was filled with despair as he roared loudly. Fight out with him. I'd rather die than be suppressed by him. What a joke. Trash. Even if you were at your peak, I wouldn't put you in my eyes. Not to mention that you don't even have much strength now. Lei Ju's eyes were filled with disdain as he laughed wildly. You're just putting up a desperate struggle. Suppress all of you. Lei Ju's fist wind fell again and again, as if he wanted to suppress Chu Fengyan. Brat, your strength is indeed not bad. You have the qualifications to contend with me. Unfortunately, you are still too foolish. You actually wasted your spiritual energy for nothing. Now, even if you regret it, it's too late. Obediently become a demon slave. Lei Ju looked at Chu Fengyan and laughed wildly. He deliberately let Chu Fengyan resist the demon will to consume his spiritual power. He was indeed somewhat afraid of Chu Fengyan's strength. But now, a warrior without spiritual power was useless. Do you really think that I can't see through your scheme? Chu Fengyan smiled faintly. With a thought, the spiritual power in his body was completely replenished in an instant. In a flash, Chu Fengyan's spiritual power was completely restored. You! Lei Ju's eyes were filled with shock. He looked at the scene in front of him and was simply stunned. Just now, Chu Fengyan had consumed so much spiritual power. He had also checked countless times and found that Chu Fengyan's spiritual power was indeed exhausted. But now, Chu Fengyan's spiritual power was completely restored in such a short time. Even if he swallowed elixirs, it would not be so fast. Kid, even if your spiritual power is restored, so what? There's no point. Today you're still going to die. Suddenly, Lei Ju moved. He jumped up high, withdrew most of his power, and condensed it on his fist wind. Then, he condensed it again and directly bombarded Chu Fengyan. Kid, I know that you've defeated Wu Fengyun and have some strength. But in our eyes, Wu Fengyun is just a piece of trash. Today, I'll let you know the difference between an inner disciple and an outer disciple. Lei Ju made his move. The power of his punch was extremely ferocious. It was simply earth-shattering. The fist wind seemed to have turned into an incomparably huge hammer, smashing violently towards Chu Fengyan's chest. This punch was to thoroughly injure Chu Fengyan and beat him until he had no power to fight back. However, Chu Fengyan's expression was extremely calm. He clenched his fist and punched back at the incoming fist. Roar! Following Chu Fengyan's punch, a dragon's roar suddenly. Chu Fengyan's chews with the ants and dragons. With a roar with withs. With a roar, A's with the dragons. With S. There was a loud bang. Lei Ju's body was sent flying in an instant. The clothes on his chest were torn apart, revealing a spiritual armor. A fist imprint was left on the spirit armor, and it was forcibly shattered into pieces. If it wasn't for the protection of this spirit armor, Lei Ju's chest would have been pierced by this punch, and he would have died immediately. How terrifying was that power? First, it dissolved the power of Lei Ju's punch. Then, it directly shattered the spiritual armor. Lei Ju's expression was simply horrified to the extreme. His eyeballs were about to fall out. This spiritual armor was an earth-level spiritual artifact. It had been with him for countless years and had protected his life countless times. Lei Ju had once been chased by a life and death expert who had just entered the life and death realm. He had relied on this armor to survive. At that time, the life and death expert had used all his strength, but he had only been able to break a hole in the armor. It wasn't like Chu Fengyan, who had shattered it with a single punch. The spiritual energy on the spiritual armor had already dissipated and disappeared. This also meant that the spiritual armor was completely useless. Such terrifying spiritual power was actually unleashed by a wind-resisting realm martial artist. Previously, when Chu Fengyan defeated Wu Fengyun in the outer sect, the strength he had displayed was already extremely terrifying. But now, it seemed that the strength he had displayed was only the tip of the iceberg. Chu Fengyan's true strength was even more terrifying. Oh my God! How could Chu Fengyan's strength? It's too terrifying. Such strength. The other three looked at the changes in front of them with dull eyes. They didn't expect Chu Fengmian to suddenly erupt with such terrifying strength. Then, the three of them were overjoyed. Chu Fengmian had concealed such strength. Now, they weren't in a life-or-death situation. You actually have such strength. Lei Ju's face was filled with shock. He pointed at Chu Fengmian and shouted in disbelief. With your strength, why would you listen to me? You already knew my plan. Why would you wait until now? If I didn't spare your life, how could I catch the person behind you? I didn't expect that this person was actually a big fish. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. Lei Ju, you killed your fellow disciples and colluded with the Earth Demon sect. You're no longer worthy to be a disciple of the North Sea Academy. Today, I'll kill you today and eliminate you, a scourge. While speaking, Chu Fengmian waved his hand and threw out another punch, bombarding Lei Ju. Originally, he had expected that the previous punch would be enough to kill Lei Ju. However, he didn't expect that Lei Ju would have such a spiritual armor on him. But this time, there was no spiritual armor to help him block the attack. Not good. Dark, ancient demon lord, save me. Looking at Chu Fengmian's punch, Lei Ju's face was filled with panic, and he shouted loudly. Suddenly, a blood-red demonic claw clawed over and blocked Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy. Under the claw, the spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's punch was shattered. Young man, don't be too ruthless. A hoarse voice sounded. It was Dark, ancient demon lord. This person is after all working for me. Give me some face and spare his life. Dark, ancient demon lord said. At the same time, he waved his hand and grabbed at Lei Ju, tried to take him away. Chapter 477. Too ruthless? This person wanted to kill me. Killing him is his just desserts. Chu Fengmian coldly said. Hearing Dark, ancient demon ancestor's words, Chu Fengmian didn't give him any face. Moreover, you're just a little devil. Do you really think you're the demon ancestor? Your demon ancestor isn't even fit to carry my shoes. What face do you have? Do you think you can escape today? Since you dare to scheme against me, you'll also die. Chu Fengmian's mind moved, and the 1,296 drops of ancient battle dragon essence blood condensed in his bloodline. Suddenly, the condensed battle dragon claw slammed down from the sky, slapping towards Lei Ju. Die for me, impudent. Hearing Chu Fengmian calling him a little devil and saying that demon ancestor wasn't even fit to carry his shoes, Dark ancient demon ancestor's anger was ignited. He was also a life and death expert with a high position in Earth Demon sect. When had he ever been looked down upon by a junior? You only know a few dragon race martial skills. Do you really think you're invincible? Bloodhand demonic claw. Break for me. Dark ancient demon ancestor coldly shouted. His pair of demonic claws immediately clawed at the sky, contending against Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw. Puny demonic claws, you think you can contend against my battle dragon claw? All of you break for me. Seeing Dark ancient demon ancestor's action, Chu Fengmian sneered. With a thought, the battle dragon claw's power suddenly increased by a lot. Suddenly, it descended from the sky. Rumble. The power of this claw was simply enough to cause the entire cave to collapse. Fortunately, the cave was covered with countless formations, allowing it to withstand such a frightening clash of power. The might of the battle dragon claw had already begun to transform when Chu Fengmian obtained the sky crystal and his spiritual energy became purer. Now, the might of this battle dragon claw had reached the peak. It condensed the power of the 1,296 drops of ancient battle dragon essence blood in Chu Fengmian's body, transforming it into the battle dragon claw. As the claw descended, no one could stop it. Crack! The crimson demonic claw, formed by the ancient demon venerate, was instantly shattered by the power of the battle dragon claw. The bloody hand was shattered into pieces by the force of the battle dragon claw. Little devil, let's see what other tricks you have. How dare you come and save this person? Chu Fengmian looked at Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient. Without any hesitation, the scarlet flame sword appeared in his hand. Immediately, he slashed out with his sword toward Demon Exalted Dark Ancient. Having gained the upper hand, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate to continue his fierce attacks. His eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. Among the 7 great sects, Nine Demon City was the one Chu Fengmian hated the most. Most of Chu Fengmian's senior brothers and sisters had died in the hands of the Nine Demon City. The Earth Demon sect was a branch of the Nine Demon City. All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian was enraged. Die! Chu Fengmian moved his hand. The battle dragon claw directly pressed down on Lei Ju. Lei Ju did not even have the time to resist. He was killed by the battle dragon claw and turned into a cloud of blood mist. He died in Chu Fengmian's hands. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's mind moved. He grabbed a white soul from the cloud of blood mist. It was Lei Ju's soul. Lei Ju's countless memories were directly extracted by Chu Fengmian. Then, Chu Fengmian crushed Lei Ju's soul. Chu Fengmian hated people who betrayed their sect the most. Not to mention, Lei Ju had schemed against Chu Fengmian. Now he deserved to die. Damn it, arrogant brat. Seeing Chu Fengmian kill Lei Ju, Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient's face was filled with boundless anger. He was furious to the extreme. Demon God descends. The world is a demon. Let me show you the power of my Earth Demon sect. Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient was furious. Chu Fengmian did not put him in his eyes at all. In an instant, black spiritual energy surrounded Dark Ancient Demon Sovereign and covered him. Suddenly, the power of Chu Fengmian's sword was absorbed and dissolved by the black spiritual energy. Undefeated, true demon body. Seeing the change in Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient, Chu Fengmian murmured. Chu Fengmian recognized it at a glance. The black spiritual energy and the change in Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient was actually one of the most powerful secret techniques of Nine Demon City, the undefeated true demon body. Many famous experts have been born in the demonic path, and these experts were all at the top of the 9 regions. There was once a terrifying demonic path, demonic ancestor, the ancient demon emperor. He was a terrifying existence that set off a bloody storm in the 9 regions. The strength of the ancient demon emperor was at the top of the 9 regions. What was more terrifying about him was that he had an almost invincible body. It could heal the injuries of the divine body at any given moment. It was an existence that could never be defeated. What he had created was actually the unbeatable true demon body of eternity. The essence of the undefeated true demon body was to merge the body with the eternal demonic will of the eternal hell. No matter how serious the injury, as long as there was enough demonic will, it could be healed in an instant. The black spiritual energy that surrounded Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient was the eternal demonic will of the eternal hell. It could devour any power and resist any injury. It was not inferior to Chu Fengmian's battle dragon bloodline. In fact, it was even more powerful. It was almost invincible. Oh, you've heard of the undefeated true demon body. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient looked surprised when he heard Chu Fengmian's muttering. The undefeated true demon body was one of the most mysterious secret techniques of the Earth Demon sect. Many disciples of the Earth Demon sect did not know about it. He did not expect Chu Fengmian to recognize it at a glance. But it's useless even if you know about it. My undefeated true demon body has been cultivated to the great completion. My body is surrounded by the eternal demonic will. In the Earth Demon realm, the eternal demonic will is endless. You will never defeat me. Demon Exalted Dark Ancient laughed loudly. Suddenly, he unleashed his attack. This time around, his attack was completely unrestrained. He was not worried that Chu Fengmian would kill him at all. The undefeated true demon body would never be defeated as long as it was in a place with demonic will. Naturally, he was not worried. Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient gave up some of his defensive power and used all of his spiritual energy to attack. He suddenly slapped his palm. The power of this palm was shocking. It was like a heavy blow. Chapter 478. Rumble. Under Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's palm, the heaven and earth trembled. The power of this palm was frightening to the extreme. This palm was purely a suppression of power, without any technique. Because of this, it was the most frightening. If one won through technique, one could use techniques to counter each move. However, This pure power was like a heavy sword without a sharp edge. All techniques were meaningless before this power. It could only be a contest of pure power. Although undefeatable true demon body could only be used for defense, it was enough to reserve a large amount of power for offense. The power of demon venerable dark ancient's palm strike was more than twice as strong as the previous one. A contest of strength? Even if it's a life and death expert, I'm not afraid. Chu Fengmian's eyes were calm. With a flip of his palm, he suddenly slapped out, condensing his battle dragon bloodline and forming a battle dragon claw. In an instant, the battle dragon claw rumbled over. Fight! As soon as the word fight was uttered, Chu Fengmian's aura became completely different from before. The ancient battle dragon grew fiercer the more it fought. Now that Chu Fengmian possessed the battle dragon bloodline, his temperament was similar to the ancient battle dragons. The stronger the enemy, the more Chu Fengmian's strength could be stimulated, causing his strength to rise steadily. Rumble! Suddenly, an endless amount of power came crashing down. This claw collided directly with demon exalted dark ancient's palm. The power of the claw and palm were actually evenly matched. Fortunately, this dark ancient demon ancestor's strength is only at the second level of life and death realm. If he was a bit stronger, I wouldn't be able to contend against him. Chu Fengmian's mind flickered. As they exchanged blows, Chu Fengmian had a thorough understanding of demon sovereign dark ancient strength. However, this dark ancient demon ancestor was the strongest opponent Chu Fengmian had encountered so far. Although dark ancient demon ancestor's cultivation base was the same as the Su family's old ancestor, whom Chu Fengmian had defeated, dark ancient demon ancestor was much stronger. After all, he was an expert from Earth Demon sect. With a wave of his hand, he could kill countless life and death experts like the Su family's old ancestor. Although they were at the same cultivation base, the difference in strength was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was just like how Chu Fengmian's strength far surpassed other martial artists of the same cultivation base. Battle Dragon Claw, for me. As Chu Fengmian pondered, he once again activated the Battle Dragon Claw. Chu Fengmian couldn't do anything to Demon Exalt Dark Ancient if he allowed him to gather his strength. The only way was to attack him. Without the slightest hesitation, the Battle Dragon Claw slammed down once again. You want to kill me? What a joke. Unless you can suppress me. Otherwise, no one can defeat me. In the face of Chu Fengmian's Battle Dragon Claw, the ancient demon venerable did not dodge. Instead, a mocking smile appeared on his face. He did not even try to defend himself. Instead, he used his physical body to take on the War Dragon's claw. The claw that contained boundless dragon might and extreme power disappeared the moment it struck Demon Lord Dark Ancient. Ancient Yi. The ancient Dark Yi. Dark Ancient True Heavens. Dark Ancients. As long as there was enough Dark Ancient True Demon body, it could absorb all damage. It was simply one of the most difficult secret techniques in the 9 regions. Brat, your strength has indeed exceeded my expectations. Even within my Earth Demon sect, there is no such genius like you. To be able to contend against me with wind-controlling realm is simply unheard of. Unfortunately, you will still die today because I am an invincible existence. Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor sneered. All your resistance is just a waste of energy. In this Earth Demon world, I am an invincible existence. As he spoke, Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor gathered spiritual energy in his palm and blasted it at Chu Fengmian. Suddenly, the entire cave was filled with Dark Ancient Demonic will. The Dark Ancient Demonic will transformed into demons and attacked Chu Fengmian. Get lost. Chu Fengmian indifferently spat out a word. Like a dragon's roar, it resounded. 8 Tianlong notes. The 8 Tianlong notes were originally the bane of all evil things in the world. The countless demons that were formed were all destroyed by the dragon's roar. The invincible ancient true demon body is indeed strange and difficult to deal with, but it is not unbreakable. Do you really think that you are an invincible existence? You're just a little devil from the Earth Demon sect. How dare you boast that you can kill me with such a trivial devil Dao branch? Chu Fumian looked at Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor, and said word by word, "Fine. Today, I will break your invincible ancient true demon body. Let's see how arrogant you can be." As he spoke, Chu Fumian slashed out with the scarlet flame sword in his hand. Suddenly, the entire cave was filled with endless swords. Chu Fumian's slash was divided into 10,000 swords. Only Chu Fumian could easily unleash such an earth-shattering sword will. Every single sword ray was aimed at the countless demonic wills and slashed at them. Don't waste your energy. These dark, ancient demonic wills are not something that your sword can break. Even if you kill them 1,000 or 10,000 times, they will reform again. Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor said with an extremely arrogant expression, "Let's see how you can break my invincible ancient true demon body. Given your strength, you must have had endless fortuitous encounters to be able to reach this level. Your bloodline has even surpassed that of a real dragon. It is the bloodline of the ancestral dragon, or even the Dragon Emperor. After obtaining your bloodline, I will be able to refine the demonic dragon's bloodline and increase my strength to another level." Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor said. He gathered his spiritual energy again and struck out with his palm. There was no technique in his every strike. It was purely a head-on collision. He wanted to beat Chu Fumian to death with his immense strength. Kill. Chu Fumian's eyes changed. His eyes turned red and his killing intent condensed. Endless blood chi filled Chu Fumian's sword. Suddenly, he slashed out with his sword and collided with the palm. The power of Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's palm was shattered. The endless blood chi that was contained within the palm slashed at Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor. However, just like before, the endless blood chi was absorbed by Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor the moment it was about to hit him. The eternal ancient demonic wills around Demon Ancestor, Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor could be absorbed directly. Unless the demonic wills around him disappeared completely, he was almost invincible. Chapter 479. Seeing this, the smile on Dark Ancient Demon Venerable's face deepened. Keek, Junior, don't waste your energy. You can't break my undefeatable, true demonic body. Demon Venerate Dark Ancient was extremely excited. He had originally only wanted to collude with Lei Ju and get some disciples of the North Sea Academy to refine demonic slaves. After all, the strength of demonic slaves was related to their strength when they were alive. Those who could enter North Sea Academy were all elites. The demonic slaves, refined by them, would be extremely powerful. However, he didn't expect to meet such a big fish like Chu Fumian. If he could obtain all of Chu Fumian's fortuitous encounters, his strength would increase crazily. Wait until I condense the demonic dragon bloodline. I might even break through to a higher realm, surpassing life and death realm. Dark Ancient Demon Venerable was extremely excited. He gathered his strength again, condensing spiritual energy and launching countless martial skills. He could see that Chu Fumian's strength wasn't any weaker than his. Defeating Chu Fumian wasn't something that could be accomplished with a single move. However, Dark Ancient Demon Venerable had the undefeatable, true demonic body as his trump card. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. He launched countless martial skills in order to exhaust Chu Fumian's strength. As long as Chu Fumian's spiritual energy was exhausted and he made a mistake, he would win without a doubt. Bang, bang, bang. These martial skills hit Chu Fumian's body one after another. Chu Fumian only activated the Battle Dragon Bloodline's power and didn't resist. Countless martial skills bombarded Chu Fumian's body, but it was as if they hit a solid spiritual weapon, creating countless sparks. Chu Fumian's body had been refined by Sky Crystal, refined by Thunder, and possessed the Battle Dragon Bloodline. His body was incomparably sturdy, much sturdier than an Earth-grade spiritual weapon. Chu Fengmian's body was even more terrifying than a life-and-death realm martial artist's body. After all, Chu Fengmian had been refined by sky crystal. The refinement of sky crystal was enough to transform a martial artist's body. Chu Fengmian's body was no longer made of flesh and blood. It was simply a perfect body. Although he couldn't defend against all attacks like the undefeatable true demon body, he still didn't care about such a small attack. The best way to deal with the undefeatable true demon body is to use a supreme technique to seal off the connection with the eternal hell. Once the eternal demon will vanishes, it will be easier to deal with it. Chu Fengmian thought to himself as he fought. However, this move was useless against Chu Fengmian. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, he was far from being able to seal the connection between the ancient dark demon sovereign and the eternal hell. If that's the case, let's destroy all the demonic intent. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. He had the divine pulse and could afford to waste time with Demon Lord Dark Ancient. Suddenly, he slashed out with his sword. 10,000 swords appeared once again, crazily engulfing the entire cave. Useless brat. Your sword is completely useless in front of me. It can't hurt me at all. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient laughed. Eternal Devil Will. Devour them all. The swords around Demon Exalt Dark Ancient were all devoured by the eternal demonic will. However, Chu Fengmian had a cold smile on his face. When the 10,000 swords finally engulfed the entire cave, Chu Fengmian's mind suddenly moved. Devour. With the activation of the sword intent, the swords suddenly turned into divine, sky-devouring pythons. They devoured the demonic intent in the surrounding cave crazily. Countless demonic intents were devoured by the divine, sky-devouring pythons almost instantly. What kind of technique is this? Devouring the demonic intent? Devouring the sword intent? What level has this person's sword intent reached? Demon Venerable Dark Ancient looked at the scene in front of him and was extremely shocked. Transforming the sword intent and devouring the demonic intent. This was the pinnacle of sword principle. There were geniuses of sword principle in his Earth Demon sect. One of the demon ancestors was ranked at the peak of sword principle in the northern region. However, even the Wushang demon ancestor hadn't reached such a level in sword principle and couldn't transform the sword intent. This kid is indeed a monster. I can't believe such a monster was born in the northern region. Fortunately, he hasn't stepped into the divine power realm. Otherwise, I would have been killed by him today. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient thought. He was shocked, but he didn't show it on his face and laughed wildly. Kid, so what if you devour all the demonic intents? This is the Earth Demon realm. You can have as much demonic intents as you want. Go. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient grabbed the demon slave that was wandering aimlessly on the ground and threw it into the altar. The demon slave was destroyed and devoured immediately after it was thrown into the altar. Suddenly, countless demonic intents gushed out from the altar and filled the cave again. Woo 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 woo. Countless ghostly wails and howls sounded crazily in the cave. Sure enough, the demonic intents are caused by the altar. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. His body moved, leaving only an afterimage. His real body suddenly rushed towards the altar. As long as the altar was destroyed, Demon Venerable Dark Ancient wouldn't have enough demonic intents to support his unbeatable, true demon body. Not good. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient looked at Chu Fengmian's action and his face suddenly changed. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be so fast. Suddenly, he was already close to the altar. Demon God descends. Everyone is a demon. Demon Venerable Dark Ancient shouted angrily and suddenly threw out a palm. The moment the palm landed, it was as if a demon god had descended to the world. An incomparably huge pressure came pressing down. It was as if the entire world was about to be suppressed by this power. Chu Fengmian raised his head and faced the terrifying palm. Behind Chu Fengmian, an incomparably huge ancient god of slaughter suddenly appeared. In an instant, the ancient god of slaughter unleashed countless martial skills towards the palm in the sky, trying to resist it. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's figure had already reached the edge of the altar. "Break from me." Chu Fengmian clenched his hand into a fist, gathered his strength, and blasted it towards the altar. Swoosh! The moment the fist blasted out, countless runes appeared on the altar. These runes immediately formed an incomparably complex array that blocked Chu Fengmian's fist. Chu Fengmian's punch was actually unable to shake the array on the altar. Chapter 480. Ha ha, boy, don't waste your energy. This altar was refined by the supreme ancestor of our Earth Demon sect. No one can break it. Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient laughed. You'd better accept your death obediently. What god of slaughter phantom? Break it all. As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient's palm became even more powerful. It pressed down on the primordial god of slaughter, causing it to dissipate. So what if you have a strong array? I'd like to see if you can withstand the power of an extreme immortal weapon. An ancient broken jar appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. In an instant, an incomparably dazzling light erupted from the ancient earthen jar and filled the entire cave. Following that, an extremely dense power appeared. This power was so dense that it surpassed everything else. The Tao of the human emperor. Enlighten all living beings. The power of the emperor jar burst out under Chu Fengmian's activation. In the dark cave, the light of the emperor jar was like a scorching sun. The demonic intent that filled the sky was destroyed by this power. Even Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient's palm was turned into ashes under this power. What kind of power is this? It's beyond the power of a heaven-grade spiritual artifact. An extreme immortal weapon? How could such a legendary item be in this boy's hands? When Demon Lord Dark Ancient saw this, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. This was an extreme immortal weapon, a legendary item. How could he believe that it had appeared in Chu Fengmian's hands? However, no matter how much he refused to believe it, he could clearly feel the power of the Emperor Jar. If he did not resist this power, he would die. Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient kept retreating, trying to resist the power of the Emperor Jar. Trying to escape? No one can escape from the power of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly and activated the power of the jar. Suddenly, a vast amount of spiritual power sealed the cave, leaving Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient nowhere to escape. However, Chu Fengmian's first opponent was not Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient. He had used most of his power to deal with the altar. As long as the altar was destroyed, Demon Sovereign Dark Ancient, who did not have the invincible true demon body, would be inferior to an ant in front of Chu Fengmian. Spear of the Human Emperor. Condense. Chu Fengmian shouted. Endless spiritual power burst out from the Emperor Jar and condensed into an ancient spear in Chu Fengmian's hand. This was the legendary spear of the Human Emperor. After inheriting the majestic power of the ancient Renhuang, Chu Fengmian now had a part of the fragments of the Renhuang jar. It was enough for him to condense the true Renhuang spear. Although it was just a condensed spear of the Human Emperor, it had the power of the Human Emperor. The Renhuang spear was held in Chu Fengmian's hand. It seemed that Chu Fengmian had inherited the power of the ancient Renhuang. Pierce. Chu Fengmian thrust the Human Emperor's spear at the altar. Sensing danger, the altar, Fengmian funds Emu's dark evil Zeph, but how could such a puny array formation withstand the sharpness of the Human Emperor's spear? Boom! The spear of the Human Emperor, in Chu Fengmian's hand, pierced into the altar. A burst of power shook from Chu Fengmian's hand. The power of the spear of the Human Emperor was so strong that Chu Fengmian couldn't control it for a while. The spear of the Human Emperor pierced through the great array of the altar and went straight into the altar. Kacha! A gust of spiritual energy pierced through the altar, causing countless cracks to appear on it. Then, the altar shattered abruptly. Suddenly, a ray of light flew out from the altar as the altar shattered. Chu Fengmian glanced at it. Through the countless rays of light, he saw that it was a huge inner elixir the size of a head. A dragon elixir? Chu Fengmian's eyes lit up. There must be something supporting the power of such a huge altar. He didn't expect to find a dragon elixir in the altar. The dragon elixir was completely black. Apparently, It had been affected by the demonic will. But in Chu Fengmian's eyes, it was still a supreme treasure. Good stuff. Although the dragon elixir is affected by the demonic will, it still contains a lot of power. With my battle dragon bloodline, I can dissolve the demonic will. This dragon elixir is enough to help me make a breakthrough. It will help me step into the divine power realm. Chu Fengmian laughed wildly. He grabbed the dragon elixir and suppressed it in his empty ring. Kid, how dare you destroy the altar? Our earth demon sex experts will not let you go. They will hunt you down for eternity. Just wait for our earth demon sex hunt. Demon Sovereign Angu roared crazily, but his voice was trembling. His palm moved and a jade talisman was thrown out. It seemed like he wanted to inform the earth demon sex experts. You want to call for help? Do you think you can throw this jade talisman out? Chu Fengmian snorted and waved his hand. The jade talisman was sealed by Chu Fengmian. He crushed it with his hand. Demon Sovereign Angu. So what if the Earth Demon Sect is hunting me down? Today you're doomed to die. Without the demonic will, let's see what use your undefeatable, true demonic body is. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly and slashed his sword at Dark Ancient Demon Sovereign. Hiss! This sword was extremely fast. It pierced through Demon Sovereign Angu's chest. At the same time, the sword tip also burst out from Demon Sovereign Angu's chest. Suddenly, a huge hole was opened in his chest. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all destroyed. However, this kind of injury still couldn't kill a life and death realm expert. Life and death realm experts transcended life and death. Unless they were completely annihilated, they could recover. Damn it, it's me, Demon Sovereign Angu. Today I won't die. Demon Sovereign Angu roared crazily. His body suddenly exploded layer by layer. True demonic disintegration. Waves of demonic will gushed out from Demon Sovereign Angu's body, demonizing his body. The spiritual power within his body became even crazier. You want to abandon your body? Soul escape? Seeing Demon Sovereign Angu's actions, Chu Fengmian naturally knew what he wanted to do. This true demonic disintegration was one of the secret techniques of Nine Demon City. It allowed one to abandon the body and concentrate all the power into the soul, allowing the soul to escape. As long as he casually seized another body, Demon Sovereign Angu would only need to rest for a period of time to revive. But now, in front of Chu Fengmian, Demon Sovereign Angu was naive to think that he could escape. Chapter 481. Just as Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor was about to escape, Chu Fengmian's figure had already arrived before him, blocking his path. Die! The scarlet flame sword in Chu Fengmian's hand descended once again. The sword's edge flickered, directly piercing into Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's body. This time, he no longer had the eternal demonic will to help him resist the power. As the sword pierced into Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's body, Chu Fengmian's sword contained a terrifying sword intent. The sky-devouring divine python abruptly condensed. Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's soul was cleanly devoured in a single gulp, making it impossible for him to seize another body for rebirth. Pong! Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's body suddenly shattered, turning into countless blood mists. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and swallowed them all. Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor's bloodline contained demonic will. If an ordinary person were to devour it, they would be directly affected. It was even more toxic than poison. However, in front of Chu Fengmian, this tiny bit of demonic will didn't affect him at all. His battle dragon bloodline was the nemesis of all evil things. This tiny bit of demonic will was suppressed in Chu Fengmian's body. Almost in an instant, it was completely suppressed and destroyed. What remained was the purest spiritual energy, which was completely devoured by Chu Fengmian. Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor is dead. A life and death martial artist actually died in the hands of a wind-resisting realm martial artist. We survived. Mang Tong, Chu Mu, and Hua Exan looked at the scene in front of them in a daze. They were already in a situation where death was inevitable. Who would have thought that Dark Ancient Demon Ancestor would die in the hands of Chu Fengmian? A life and death martial artist being killed by a wind-resisting realm martial artist. If this news were to spread out, everyone would think that the person who said such words had a screw loose. In the entire northern region, no one had been able to do this for 1,000 years. Yet, Chu Fengmian had done it. "Brother Chu, Senior Chu, what realm are you in?" Mang Tong looked at Chu Fengmian and stammered. He absolutely refused to believe that Chu Fengmian was only a wind-controlling realm martial artist. He hadn't even become a saint, yet he could defeat a life-and-death realm martial artist. How could they believe this? Moreover, dark ancient demon ancestor had cultivated the unbeatable true demonic body, making him extremely difficult to deal with. Even life-and-death experts might not necessarily be able to kill him. My realm is indeed the Imperial Wind Realm, but I have my own means. At least you were just ants in front of me. Chu Fengmian looked at the three people and said coldly, "You've seen too many things today. I'll give you a chance. Open up your hearts and let me plant a seal in your bodies, and I'll let you go. Otherwise, I'll destroy your memories and send you somewhere else. You can choose one of the two." The three of them had witnessed everything today. They had seen through all of Chu Fengmian's trump cards, especially the secret of the Renhuang jar, which was an extreme immortal weapon. If this was discovered by others, there would be an endless stream of cultivators coming to kill Chu Fengmian. Not only the North region, but all the experts of the 9 regions would come to kill Chu Fengmian. After all, extreme immortal weapons were a legend in the 9 regions. People of the 7 great sects would come to snatch them. These 3 people had never provoked Chu Fengmian. Given his character, he wouldn't kill them, but he wouldn't let them go either. Or he would plant a heavenly death seal in their bodies so that they would never be able to speak of this secret. Otherwise, their memories would be erased and they would be taken to a remote country, never to return. These 2 options were up to them to choose. The 3 looked at each other, their eyes still a little dull. They hadn't recovered from the shock just now. For a moment, no one spoke. "What? You're not willing to choose?" Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. This time, his words contained killing intent. It wasn't that Chu Fengmian didn't give them a chance. If they didn't want to choose, he would be forced to kill them. At least, Chu Fengmian wouldn't lose the big picture for a small gain and bring danger to himself. "I'm willing to open my heart." Mang Tong was the first to speak. When the killing intent descended upon him, he immediately came to his senses and shouted loudly, "Young Master saved our lives. I'm willing to submit to Young Master." Following an expert like Young Master is a great opportunity. We're also willing. Chu Mu and Hua Xin quickly knelt before Chu Fengmian and submitted to him. Chu Fengmian's strength was obvious to all. He was strong enough to kill demon Exalt Angu. This kind of strength had surpassed the inner disciples of the Beimeng Academy. He was comparable to those monstrous seed disciples. This was something the 3 of them could never achieve in their lifetime. Their aptitude could only be considered average. Being able to become an inner disciple by luck was already their limit. Chu Fengmian's future achievements were limitless. Following Chu Fengmian might be the best way out for them. "All right," Chu Fengmian nodded. 3 drops of golden blood appeared on his fingertip. They immediately separated and entered the bodies of the 3 people. The golden blood immediately integrated into their blood vessels. The heavenly death seal was also directly engraved in the depths of their hearts. Now, even if they were to die, they couldn't reveal this secret. "Good. Since the 3 of you have submitted to me, I will naturally not shortchange you. These 3 spiritual weapons belong to you from now on." Seeing that the 3 people were so sensible, Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. He waved his hand, and 3 spiritual weapons appeared at the same time. These 3 spiritual weapons were earthly-grade spiritual weapons. Chu Fengmian obtained them when he killed the flower-snatching venerable. These earthly-grade spiritual weapons were useless to Chu Fengmian, but they were precious treasures to the 3 of them. The 3 of them received the spiritual weapons with joy on their faces. They said respectfully, "Thank you, Young Master, for your reward." With their status, it was impossible for them to have such earthly-grade spiritual weapons. In the Beimeng Academy, Only the inner disciples were guaranteed to have earthly-grade spiritual weapons. For them, they could only use some good profound-grade spiritual weapons. Chu Fengmian's reward was enough to increase their strength by several folds. Let's go. We can't stay here for long. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and swept away all the fragments of the altar on the ground. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian directly grabbed the three of them, turned into a ray of light, and flew out. This was the Earth Demon realm. Although the Jade Talisman of the ancient demon Venerable was not sent out, the destruction of the altar was likely to attract many experts of the Earth Demon sect. The ancient demon Venerable was already so difficult to deal with. There were many demons in the Earth Demon sect that were stronger than the ancient demon Venerable. Chu Fengmian did not want to provoke any danger. He turned into a ray of light and left. Chapter 482. Earth Demon Domain was filled with demonic intent. This demonic intent was enough to affect a martial artist's spiritual sense. Even Chu Fengmian, whose spiritual sense far surpassed ordinary people, couldn't sense the direction in Earth Demon Domain. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had killed Lei Ju and read his memories. Only then could he find the way out of Earth Demon Domain. A few hours later, Chu Fengmian left Earth Demon Domain with Mang Tong and the other two. After returning to North Sea Academy, Chu Fengmian finally let out a sigh of relief. In Earth Demon Domain, Chu Fengmian had always been on tenterhooks, afraid that a demon would suddenly appear and kill him. Although Chu Fengmian's current strength was pretty good, if he were to encounter a high-level life and death expert of Earth Demon sect, it wouldn't be hard for such a high-level life and death expert to kill Chu Fengmian. Although this Earth Demon Domain is full of dangers, it definitely contains countless wondrous treasures. Wait until I enter Divine Power Realm, then I can explore it again. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly as he flew back to North Sea Academy. As long as Chu Fengmian could enter Divine Power Realm, even if he couldn't defeat high-level life and death experts, he could at least protect himself. His trip to the Earth Demon Domain this time was not only to complete the mission given to him by the North Sea Academy, but also to obtain a dragon core. This dragon core belonged to a life and death true dragon. This time, Chu Fengmian's harvest was huge. The dragon pellet could help him break through. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also obtained the cultivation method of undefeatable true demon body. This undefeatable true demon body was useless to Chu Fengmian because his battle dragon bloodline clashed with the undefeatable true demon body. Therefore, Chu Fengmian couldn't cultivate it. Moreover, with the power of battle dragon art, if Chu Fengmian broke through again, the effect of the battle dragon bloodline wouldn't be any weaker than the undefeatable true demon body. However, Chu Fengmian imparted the undefeatable true demon body to Mang Tong and the other two. At the same time, he also imparted some cultivation methods and martial skills from his memories to them. In North Sea Academy, it was hard for one person to fight for. Chu Fengmian wanted to cultivate some martial artists to work for him. With Chu Fengmian's speed and without any rest, he arrived at the outskirts of the North Sea Academy in about 12 hours. At this time, Chu Fengmian slowed down and let go of Mang Tong and the other two. The four of them slowly returned to the North Sea Academy. According to Lei Ju's memories, Chu Fengmian had followed Mang Tong and the other two to the mission hall of the Northern Mang Academy. All the missions of the Northern Mang Academy were received from the mission hall. After completing the mission for the sex examination, they had to return to the mission hall to report. A mission hall disciple couldn't help but ask when he saw Chu Fengmian and the other three enter. "Oh, you guys actually came back? Have you completed the mission?" Returning to the academy without completing the mission is a serious offense. When Chu Fengmian heard the disciple's words, he was not surprised at all. "We're done. Senior brother, please ask the elders to come out." "So fast. You must be this year's newcomer king. Not bad indeed. You have some strength." The disciple of the mission hall was slightly surprised, but he still smiled. "The elders are inside. Everyone, please follow me." After saying that, he led Chu Fengmian and the other three to a room in the mission hall. "Elder, these new disciples have completed the mission." "Elder, please come and inspect them. The disciple of the mission hall respectfully said to an old man who was sitting cross-legged in the room. After a while, the old man slowly opened his eyes and stood up. He glanced at Chu Fengmian and the other three and suddenly opened his mouth. In just 2 days, you guys have completed the mission assigned to you by the Academy. Not bad. The mission hall elder sized up Chu Fengmian and the other three and suddenly frowned. Who is the inner disciple in charge of leading you? Why isn't he here? The mission hall elder's question made Mang Tong and the other two nervous. Lei Ju was indeed a traitor, but he was actually killed by Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's strength couldn't be revealed yet. The three of them didn't know how to explain it. Elder, in order to save us, senior brother Lei Ju perished together with the earth demons, sex demons. However, Chu Fengmian had already anticipated the mission hall elder's question. His face revealed a trace of grief as he softly said, "If not for senior brother Lei Ju, the 4 of us would have died in the earth demon domain." What? Lei Ju perished? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the mission hall elder's eyes immediately widened. His face was filled with disbelief. Spiritual energy suddenly erupted from his body, turning into a boundless pressure that pressed down on Chu Fengmian and the other three. Speak. Did you guys kill Lei Ju? Even Lei Ju perished. How could the 4 of you survive? The moment the mission hall elder opened his mouth, endless killing intent enveloped them. This pressure made it hard for Mang Tong and the other two to breathe. Although the mission hall elder before them wasn't as strong as Elder Su Ling and the others, he was still a 3rd-level life and death expert. He was even a bit stronger than Dark Ancient Demon Sovereign. His pressure wasn't something some saints could resist. Reporting to Elder, senior brother Lei Ju did indeed die in the hands of the earth demons, sex demons. The only reason we were able to survive was because I had a true Dragon Clan's Jade Talisman on me. Using the talisman's power, we were able to escape. Under the pressure, Chu Fengmian spoke word by word. Elder, please investigate thoroughly. Oh, do you think you can deceive this old man with your glib tongue? Every single one of the inner sect disciples are the cream of the crop of our academy. Every single one of them must be thoroughly investigated. If his death is related to you guys, then you'll all die. The mission hall elder frowned and coldly shouted. Suddenly, he waved his hand. A surge of spiritual energy formed a water mirror in front of him. The scene in the underground cave suddenly appeared in the water mirror. Not good. Mang Tong and the other two's expressions changed. If the scene in the underground cave was replayed, then Chu Fengmian's secret would be completely exposed. Only Chu Fengmian's face was incomparably calm. He sneered in his heart. The moment the water mirror condensed, before the scene could finish, a dragon's roar resounded. Then, an incomparably huge war dragon claw suddenly slapped at the water mirror, shattering it. Chapter 483. This is seeing the water mirror shatter. The mission hall elder's eyes suddenly widened. Astonishment appeared on his face. Even I am unable to deduce the situation back then. This power is not an ordinary Dragon Clan's martial skill. I actually felt an ancient aura from it. The mission hall elder's eyes flickered. He seemed to be thinking about something. Suddenly, he spoke to Chu Fengmian. This Dragon Clan's martial skill, what is it? It's like this. This Dragon Clan's martial skill is a power that erupted from a jade talisman that I had a fortuitous encounter. As Chu Fengmian spoke, he took out a jade talisman and handed it over to the mission hall elder. This is the power that defeated the demons of the Earth Demon sect. However, it was still unable to save senior brother Lei Ju. When Chu Fengmian spoke, he pretended to be incomparably sorrowful. This sort of small acting was naturally very easy for Chu Fengmian. His acting was flawless. No one was able to see through the flaws in Chu Fengmian's words. This is a protective jade talisman. The power within it is exactly the same as the power that appeared in the water mirror. The mission hall elder took a glance at the protective jade talisman in his hand. He believed 70 to 80% of Chu Fengmian's words. This Dragon Clan's martial skill was clearly not something that Chu Fengmian and his group could use. Furthermore, that aura was incomparably ancient. It might even be a Dragon Clan's martial skill from the ancient era. Only a protective jade talisman, refined by a Dragon Clan expert from the ancient era, would possess this sort of power. This is a protective jade talisman refined by the ancient era's Dragon Clan. You must have triggered the power within it. That's why this power erupted. The Mission Hall elder took a glance at the jade talisman before tossing it over to Chu Fengyan. There isn't much power left in this jade talisman. It's a pity that such a treasure was used to deal with some small demons. The Mission Hall elder turned around and looked at Chu Fengyan. Lei Ju's matter is over. Forget about it. Hand over the items that you want from the mission. Yes. Chu Fengyan was already prepared. He handed over an empty ring. Within the empty ring was the fragment of the altar. The Mission Hall elder took the empty ring and opened it. His eyes lit up. That's right, it's a fragment of the Earth Demon Sect's altar. You really did destroy one of the altars. However, the Mission Hall elder extended his hand towards the empty ring, as if he was searching for something. Soon after, the joy on his face disappeared. This altar has indeed been destroyed. However, do the three of you know where the items within the altar have gone? The items in the altar are also part of the mission. If you keep them for yourselves, you will not have completed the mission. Hurry up and hand them over. The Mission Hall elder's voice was filled with killing intent. He was practically threatening Chu Fengyan and the other two. Damn it! Chu Fengyan couldn't help but frown. His heart was filled with anger. According to Lei Ju's memory, the mission should be to destroy the altar and complete the mission. But now, this Mission Hall elder actually wanted the item in the altar. Obviously, this Mission Hall elder knew that there must be some strange items in the altar that could support the consumption of energy. He wanted to directly take these strange items for himself. This was simply daylight robbery. This dragon elixir was precious. It was simply ridiculous to hand it in for such a mission. Moreover, there was no reward for this mission. Chu Fengyan wouldn't gain anything by handing in the dragon elixir. Chu Fengyan said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Elder, everything in the altar is in the empty ring. I don't know what you're talking about. Hearing Chu Fengyan's words, the Mission Hall elder revealed a cold smile. You really don't know? In that case, hand over all your spatial rings and let me check. The Mission Hall elder's words made Chu Fengyan's face turn cold. Checking the empty rings. This was simply to check all of Chu Fengyan's secrets. Such a request was simply unreasonable. If a martial artist did not have a trump card, he would be a sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Not to mention the Mission Hall elder, even the Punishment Hall of the Northern Mang Academy wouldn't dare to do this for no reason. Although Chu Fengyan had just joined the Northern Mang Academy and didn't want to cause trouble, it didn't mean that everyone was on his side. Chu Fengyan said coldly, Elder, don't you think this is too much? Presumptuous. Who gave you the right to speak to me like this? The Mission Hall elder suddenly stood up. A wave of pressure directly rushed towards Chu Fengyan and the other three. You aren't even disciples of the Northern Mang Academy now. You haven't even completed the test. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Hurry up and hand over your space ring. You dare to disrespect the elder. This is already a violation of the Academy's rules. All of your wealth must be handed over. Take it as your compensation. The Mission Hall elder shouted angrily. If you don't hurry up, I'll take it that you didn't complete the mission. You return to the Academy without permission. Do you understand? Murderous intent surged in Chu Fengyan's heart. The Mission Hall elder's words were simply too forceful. It made Chu Fengyan want to kill him. Elder Lu Ming, the mission this time only requires us to destroy the altar. As for the items inside, it doesn't seem to be part of the mission. A lady's voice suddenly sounded from outside. Then, a figure came into the room almost silently. This lady was only a peak saint. However, her strength was vaguely comparable to Elder Lu Ming's. Although her realm was not as good as Elder Lu Ming's, her aura was already on par with him. When Elder Lu Ming of the Mission Hall saw the lady named Bai Xian, there was a tinge of fear in his eyes. Bai Xian, it's not up to you to tell us what to do in the Mission Hall. Bai Xian? Upon hearing this name, Chu Fengyan's expression couldn't help but change. He took a few more glances at the lady. Chu Fumian had heard the name Bai Xian in the academy. She was an inner sect disciple and ranked 7th on the Earth roll. In the inner sect, she was a peak female disciple. Once she passed the life and death tribulation, she would be promoted to a core disciple directly. Her status in the Northern Mang Academy was no longer higher than some junior elders. At the very least, she was comparable to Elder Lu Ming. Chapter 484. The sudden appearance of such an influential figure in the inner sect attracted the attention of many people in the mission hall. Why would Bai Xian appear in the mission hall? From her words, it seems that she is here to help the newcomer out. How is that possible? Although Bai Xian's personality isn't cold, she wouldn't even place an inner disciple on the earth ranking in her eyes, let alone a mere outer disciple. Why would she come here to help a newcomer? Some outer sect disciples even squeezed their way in, wanting to catch a glimpse of this influential figure in the inner sect. It's true that I can't interfere with the matters of the mission hall. However, since it's unfair, I naturally have to say a few words. In the room, Bai Xian looked at Elder Lu Ming. Her words implied that she would not back down. Bai Xian's eyes flickered as she said coldly, "Elder Lu Ming, are you intending to expose today's matter? Using your authority to target a disciple will result in at least 100 years of confinement." You. Upon hearing Bai Xian's words, Elder Lu Ming's face turned green and red. He dared to bully Chu Fengyan and the other 3 as he pleased. This was because Chu Fengyan and the other 3 were just outer sect disciples and newcomers. They had no power or influence in the Beimang Academy. Even if he bullied them, the higher management of the academy would not know, and no one would stand up for Chu Fengyan and the other 3. However, Bai Xian was different. Bai Xian was an inner sect disciple and ranked in the top 10 of the Earth roll. She was definitely an influential figure. If she exposed this matter, Elder Lu Ming would definitely be punished. Elder Lu Ming's eyes flickered. In the end, the anger on his face gradually dissipated. However, his gaze became deeper and he seemed to be much calmer. Bai Xian, today's matter was instructed by the higher-ups. You have to be clear about this. Do you really want to interfere in this matter? Bai Xian's expression was calm as she spoke coldly. I don't care about your Lu family's matters. However, today's matter has to be handled according to the rules. Good, you have guts. Lu Ming snorted coldly. There was resentment in his eyes as he looked at Chu Fengyan. You've completed this mission. After obtaining a satisfactory result, Bai Xian nodded and turned her head to speak to Chu Fengyan. Let's go. As she spoke, Bai Xian took a step forward and left the mission hall. Chu Fengyan followed closely behind. As for Mang Tong and the other 2, Chu Fengyan had them leave on their own. What is Bai Xian trying to do? I've never met her before, so why is she helping me out? Chu Fengyan followed Bai Xian, but his heart was filled with doubt. This was the first time Chu Fengyan had met Bai Xian. He hadn't even spoken half a word to her. Today, however, Bai Xian had suddenly appeared to help him. For someone like Bai Xian, there had to be a reason for everything she did. Chu Fengyan didn't believe that she was just passing by to help. After all, he had completely offended Elder Lu Ming today. In the future, he would definitely be targeted in the mission hall. Chu Fengyan pondered for a moment before speaking in a calm manner. Thank you for helping me out, Senior Sister Bai Xian. There's no need to thank me. I have my own reasons for helping you out. When Bai Xian heard Chu Fengyan's words, she slowly turned her head and sized up Chu Fengyan. I heard that you're a friend of Junior Sister Han Yueli. I've met Junior Sister Han Yueli once in the inner sect. Today we met by chance. I'm just helping you out. It's not considered a favor. True enough. Chu Fengyan wasn't surprised to hear Bai Xian's words. He didn't have any interactions with Bai Xian. The only possibility was Han Yueli. It seemed that Han Yueli's status in the inner sect had risen. At the very least, she was no longer a newbie. Even a prominent figure like Bai Xian was acquainted with her. Today, Bai Xian suddenly appeared and helped Chu Fengyan out. As expected, it was also because of Han Yueli. Looking at Chu Fengyan's calm expression, Bai Xian revealed a look of surprise. She looked at Chu Fengyan and spoke. Oh, you're not angry? I saved you to make use of you. I just want to do Junior Sister Han Yueli a favor. Chu Fengyan smiled. Angry? Why should I be angry? Senior sister by Xian helped me out. Regardless of the reason, she has done me a great favor. To be friends with Han Yueli, you're indeed not an ordinary person. Bai Xian revealed a slight smile when she heard Chu Fengyan's words. I only wanted to use you to do junior sister Han Yueli a favor. Now, it seems that this favor is better done to you. Let's go. We'll talk somewhere else. After saying that, Bai Xian turned into a streak of light and flew away. Chu Fengyan followed closely behind. The two flew until they reached a mountain range. This mountain range was a 6th grade mountain range. Bai Xian brought Chu Fengyan all the way to this mountain range. Bai Xian turned her head and said to Chu Fengyan, "My cave mansion is in the 5th grade mountain range. However, I can't bring you there. I can only bring you to the 6th grade mountain range." Chu Fengyan's face was calm as he said with a smile, "It's fine. The 6th grade mountain range is too high for me to reach. I'm only here because of senior sister Bai Xian." Bai Xian asked after hearing Chu Fengyan's words, "Is that so? I feel that with your strength, it shouldn't be difficult for you to obtain a cave mansion in the 6th grade mountain range." Chu Fengyan smiled casually when he heard her words. He did not say anything. The two continued to fly forward and landed on the 6th-tier mountain range in a swaggering manner. "Oh, why is Bai Xian here? Isn't she cultivating in the 5th grade mountain range? Look at the person following behind her. He's just a newbie at the wind-resisting realm. A newbie at the wind-resisting realm dares to come to our 6th grade mountain range? Interesting. A newbie who doesn't know what's good for him. Did he latch onto Bai Xian? Does he want to cultivate in the 6th grade mountain range? Ridiculous. This is too ridiculous." Cold laughter and discussions rang out in the surroundings. The cultivators who cultivated in the 6th grade mountain range were all inner disciples. Even the top 10 on the mortal ranking could only cultivate in the 7th grade mountain range. Looking at Chu Fengyan, many cultivators revealed a malicious smile. After all, Chu Fengyan's arrival here was like a lamb entering the tiger's den. In the Northern Mang Academy, the strong were respected. Without strength, one would have no status. Being bullied was a common thing. Some inner disciples even took pleasure in bullying the outer disciples and snatching their resources. Survival of the fittest in Northern Mang Academy was displayed to the fullest. Chapter 485. These inner disciples sneered and schemed in their hearts. Chu Fengyan saw it clearly and naturally knew what they were thinking. If these people didn't provoke Chu Fengyan would naturally ignore them. But if they dared to provoke Chu Fengyan wouldn't be afraid of them. Now that Chu Fengyan was in the Northern Sea Academy, he gradually became familiar with the rules. The academy would turn a blind eye to a fight between disciples as long as it didn't result in death. "You don't seem to be nervous at all?" Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengyan's calm face and revealed a somewhat strange smile. "If an ordinary outer disciple was brought here by me, their legs would go soft, and they wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly. But you don't seem to be afraid?" "Afraid? It's just a small 6th grade mountain range," Chu Fengyan said with a calm face. His eyes swept across the inner disciples and sneered again and again. "One arrogant kid, a mere outer disciple dares to come to our 6th grade mountain range and act presumptuously. A mere outer disciple dares to come to our 6th grade mountain range. Who wants to teach him a lesson and let him know the rules of the Northern Sea Academy?" Some of the inner disciples saw Chu Fengyan's eyes and revealed some killing intent in their hearts. In their hearts, an outer disciple was an existence that they could casually pinch to death. They could freely mock Chu Fengyan, but Chu Fengyan couldn't resist. Looking at Chu Fengyan's sneer, each and every one of their faces revealed a bit of anger. "Let me teach this arrogant kid a lesson. Let him suffer a little. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have a big tree like Bai Xian. A newcomer also needs to understand the academy's rules." A monkey-faced man snorted and suddenly walked out of the cave and came face to face with Chu Fengyan. "Kid, a mere outer disciple like you dares to come to the 6th grade mountain range?" The monkey-faced man looked at Chu Fengyan and sneered. "Get lost. A wind-resisting realm ant doesn't deserve to step into our 6th grade mountain range." Go back to your ninth grade mountain range. The moment the monkey-faced man opened his mouth, he was secretly accumulating this power. Suddenly, he waved his hand, and a wave of spiritual energy swept towards Chu Fengyan. Although this surge of spiritual energy wasn't his full strength, it was enough to send someone flying out of the sixth grade mountain range. His control of this spiritual power was extremely exquisite. It was enough to seriously injure Chu Fengyan and make him unable to recover for several years. However, it would not kill Chu Fengyan. It would only humiliate him. It seemed that this monkey-faced man was already prepared and had calculated everything. Suddenly, a wave of spiritual energy swept over. Bai Xian, who was standing next to Chu Fengyan, saw the monkey-faced man make a move, but she stood there motionlessly. She looked at Chu Fengyan with a smile, as if she was waiting for something. Chu Fengyan naturally knew that Bai Xian was probing him. If he couldn't even deal with this monkey-faced man, then he wouldn't be qualified to talk to Bai Xian. Not qualified to enter? The world is vast, but there is no place that I, Chu Fengyan, cannot step into. Chu Fengyan suddenly let out a loud roar and struck out with his palm. This palm seemed casual, but the profoundness behind it was something that ordinary life and death realm martial artists couldn't see through. You want to teach me a lesson? With just a trash like you? Pong! Chu Fengyan's palm directly slapped towards the monkey-faced man. The two forces clashed, and the monkey-faced man's condensed power was easily shattered and dissipated. He had the upper hand in this palm. At the same time, Chu Fengyan's palm also struck towards his chest. What? The power that Chu Fengyan burst out was clearly beyond the monkey-faced man's imagination. His expression changed and became a lot more serious. The power in his body completely erupted, and he suddenly sent out a world-shaking godly fist. This world-shaking godly fist was one of the countless martial skills of the North Sea Academy. The moment he sent out this move, the entire mountain range seemed to shake. This punch had the power to shake the world. Obviously, he'd already mastered the shaking world punch. Ordinary Pinnacle Saints were no match for this move. They could only retreat and not take it head-on. However, Chu Fengyan was expressionless. Facing this world-shaking godly fist, he only sneered. He didn't dodge or evade and directly met it head-on. Similarly, he clenched his fist and sent out a punch. Roar! The punch sent out a dragon's roar, and the dragon's roar spread throughout the mountain range. The monkey-faced man's world-shaking godly fist was directly shattered by the dragon's roar. At the same time, Chu Fengyan's fist also landed on his face. In a head-on clash, he actually lost to Chu Fengyan in strength. The monkey-faced man couldn't believe his eyes. Ah! The monkey-faced man crazily screamed. He couldn't believe that he actually lost to Chu Fengyan. However, no matter how much he couldn't believe it, the outcome couldn't be changed. Chu Fengyan's fist directly landed on his face, and then the monkey-faced man's body was sent flying. The power of one punch sent the monkey-faced man flying out of the rank 6 mountain range. When he landed on the ground, he immediately fainted. What? This newcomer can even defeat Wang Lin? Although Wang Lin's strength is only average among the inner sect disciples, to the outer sect disciples, he is still a high existence. Even the two geniuses in the outer sect might not be his match. No wonder Bai Xian brought him here. This brat's strength is indeed not weak. The onlooking inner disciples all looked at Chu Fengyan in a different light. The disdain and ridicule were all gone and were replaced with seriousness and dread. No inner sect disciple dared to come up and provoke him again. Chu Fengyan naturally knew that people who were kind would be bullied. Now that he had revealed his strength, he wanted to intimidate these people. Otherwise, if he was bullied by one person and bullied by everyone, he wouldn't be able to survive in the Northern Mang Academy. Strength was respected. This was a principle that could be used in the Northern Mang Academy. Let's go. Chu Fengyan looked at Bai Xian and said, "Just a little trouble. I've dealt with it." Sure enough, your strength is no longer within the range of an outer sect disciple. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengyan. Her eyes were filled with surprise and enlightenment. With this kind of strength, you should have been taken in as a disciple by some elders during the entrance exam. How did you enter the inner sect? Bai Xian asked with some doubt. Chapter 486. There was no need to mention Chu Fengyan's cultivation level. Just the strength he had displayed so far was enough to put him at the level of an inner sect disciple. To be able to defeat Wang Lin, that kind of strength would put him in the middle of the inner sect, not at the bottom. For a newcomer to have that kind of strength was truly inconceivable. And yet, despite his strength, Chu Fengyan hadn't been selected by the elders during the disciple recruitment. That was truly shocking. The only explanation was that Chu Fengyan didn't want to fight for a spot. Otherwise, given the strength he had displayed, he would definitely have been taken in as a disciple by some of the elders. Chu Fengyan looked at Bai Xian, but didn't answer her question. Senior apprentice sister Bai Xian, you didn't call me here today to ask about this, did you? Of course. I originally wanted to talk to Hanuel Li about something, but considering your current strength, it seems I have another choice. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengyan, her eyes flashing. I have information about an ancient cave that is about to open. I wonder if junior apprentice brother Chu would be interested in coming along? Ancient cave? About to open? Chu Fengyan thought for a moment, then decided to get straight to the point. Senior apprentice sister Bai Xian wouldn't want to share such a good thing with me, would you? Ancient cave dwellings were one of the greatest fortuitous encounters in the 9 realms. Chu Fengyan had once been to one of Grand Emperor Richlush's caves and had obtained countless benefits. This kind of ancient cave dwelling, especially one that was about to open, once discovered and entered, one would be able to obtain countless benefits. Normally speaking, such things wouldn't be spread around. But now, Bai Xian was asking Chu Fengyan to come along. That caused Chu Fengyan to reveal a look of surprise. Good thing? Bai Xian asked. Yes, this cave is good, but it's not that simple. Bai Xian hurriedly explained after hearing Chu Fengyan's words. Actually, I'm not the only one who knows about this cave abode. I found it after exploring it with a few of the inner disciples of the academy. However, this cave is filled with danger. Considering our strength, we can't explore it. That's why we found some people to go with us. Bai Xian said after carefully sizing up Chu Fengyan. Originally, I was planning to find that Hanuel Li and explore the cave together. However, I am not familiar with her. Thus, when I met you by chance, I wanted to do you a favor and persuade that Hanuel Li to explore the cave together. However, it would appear that you're also a pretty good choice. Bai Xian did not try to conceal her intentions at all. She directly explained everything. Whose cave is it? Since you already understand the danger, why did you come to me? Chu Fengyan smiled casually. With my strength, I don't think I'm strong enough to explore with you. Bai Xian was a disciple ranked in the top 10 of the Earth leaderboard. Those who could explore the cave with her had to be at least ranked in the top 10 of the Earth leaderboard. An outer disciple like Chu Fengyan, even if he had some strength, shouldn't be valued by Bai Xian like this. No, speaking of this cave, it might be related to you. That's why I suddenly changed my mind and invited you. Bai Xian explained. According to my investigation, this cave should be the cave of Dragon Emperor Yengu. There are countless demonic beasts in it, and it contains a terrifying dragon aura that can suppress our strength. The cultivation technique that you practice is the cultivation technique of the Dragon Clan. You have the bloodline of the true dragon in your body. If you enter it, you might not be suppressed by the dragon aura. That's why I considered inviting you to join us. Dragon Emperor Yengu? Hearing this name, Chu Fengyan was stunned. Then, huge waves of emotions surged in his heart. Dragon Emperor Yengu was not a small figure. On the contrary, he was an all-powerful dragon emperor from 50,000 years ago. He had a high status in the true dragon clan. There was probably no one in the entire North Sea Academy who could contend against Dragon Emperor Yengu back then. And now, his cave abode had appeared in the world. Chu Fengyan couldn't help but ask, is it really Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave? For someone like Dragon Emperor Yengu, even if he had fallen, his cave should be hidden in the depths of the void. How could it be discovered? Bai Xian said slowly. We found Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave in the Void Ocean. It shouldn't be fake. Void Ocean. Chu Fengmian had heard of the Void Ocean before. It was an extremely strange place in the North region. It was located in the endless void, and it was filled with turbulence. Many people who were lost in the void would be brought into the Void Ocean by the turbulence. It was an extremely chaotic place. However, because of this characteristic, many of the cave mansions hidden in the void would also be washed into the void. Therefore, although the Void Sea was extremely unstable and filled with danger, many cultivators would still choose to explore it. If Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave had appeared in the Void Ocean, it would most likely not be fake. However, even if it was fake, such an opportunity should not be missed. After all, if they could find some benefits in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave, it would be a great opportunity. What do you think? Bai Xian asked after seeing Chu Fengmian's silence. She knew that Chu Fengmian was thinking about it. It's fine if you don't want to. I'll find someone else. All right. I agree to go to the Void Ocean with you to explore Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. Chu Fengmian nodded. But before that, I have a request. Just say it. Bai Xian said with a smile after seeing Chu Fengmian agree. As long as it's not too much, I'll agree to it. I need to borrow 10,000 merit points. Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and said slowly, I'll return it to you when we return from the Void Ocean. Merit points could be exchanged by completing missions in the academy or by wealth. However, only rare items could be exchanged for merit points. Although Chu Fengmian had many treasures with him, abundant lush monument, Emperor's Jar, Heaven Origin Divine Pill, Dragon Pill. Any one of these items could be exchanged for tens of thousands of merit points. However, these items were of great use to Chu Fengmian. The 9 Cauldron Pill, which could be found outside, was useless in the North Sea Academy. This also meant that Chu Fengmian had become a pauper. Now, if he wanted to go to the Void Ocean to explore Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave, Chu Fengmian planned to use these few days to cultivate in the Sacred Mountain before setting off on his journey. It would be much safer. Chapter 487. 10,000 merit points? No problem. Bai Xian was slightly surprised, but she soon smiled and said, Wait until we go to the Void Ocean. Even a single treasure is worth 10,000 merit points. Don't worry about such a small matter. Saying this, Bai Xian took out her identity card and transferred 10,000 merit points to Chu Fengmian. Although 10,000 merit points wasn't a small amount, it was still within reach for Bai Xian, a top 10 warrior of the Earth ranking. All right. Many thanks, Senior Sister Bai Xian. Chu Fengmian received the merit points and said, Bai Xian nodded and said, Make some preparations in the next few days. I'll contact the others. In a few days, I'll have them contact you through the Jade Talisman. Saying this, Bai Xian's figure flew away. I don't know how much of Bai Xian's words can be trusted. However, I haven't been to the Void Ocean before. It's not a bad idea to take a look this time. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. Of course, he wasn't stupid enough to believe everything Bai Xian said. However, Chu Fengmian felt that most of what she said was true. There were countless fortuitous encounters in the Void Ocean. Many experts would choose to fight in the Void Ocean. Many of the treasures of the loser would be swept into the Void Ocean by the turbulence of the void. Even if Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave mansion was fake, this trip to the Void Ocean would definitely bring him a great harvest. Before that, I should go to the Saint Mountain first. If I break through to the Divine Power Realm before going to the Void Ocean, I'll have more confidence. Once I step into the Divine Power Realm, defeating Bai Xian shouldn't be a problem. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly. Bai Xian's strength and Chu Fengmian's spiritual awareness revealed that she was at least at the 2nd level of life and death realm. And this was still her strength. Bai Xian's true strength was at least at the 3rd level of life and death realm. Compared to the current Chu Fengmian, although Chu Fengmian wouldn't be at a disadvantage, he wouldn't be able to defeat her. However, if Chu Fengmian could truly break through to the Divine Power Realm, he was confident that he could defeat Bai Xian. At that time, even if he encountered any accidents in the Void Ocean, Chu Fengmian would be able to deal with them calmly. Let's go. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and flew directly towards the center of the countless mountain ranges, towards the largest Saint Mountain. The sacred spring that supported the Academy's cultivation was located at the bottom of the sacred mountain, so cultivating on the sacred mountain had the densest spirit energy. It was several dozen times denser than that of a first-grade mountain range. Compared to a Tier 6 or Tier 7 mountain range, it was probably 1,000 or even 10,000 times denser. However, the price of cultivating in the sacred mountain was extremely high. The first time one went to cultivate in the sacred mountain required 10,000 merit points. After that, each time one wanted to cultivate in the sacred mountain required 50,000 merit points. The duration of each cultivation session could not exceed 7 days. Therefore, most people would only accumulate merit points when they were on the verge of a breakthrough and enter to cultivate. Chu Fengmian broke through the air and swaggered into the sacred mountain. Oh, an outer sect disciple actually went to the holy mountain? Even if it's your first time entering the holy mountain and only requires 10,000 merit points, it's still not something an outer disciple can afford. Everyone sneered as they watched Chu Fengmian enter the sacred mountain. Without enough merit points, Chu Fengmian would probably be thrown out directly. The sacred mountain is a forbidden area. You're not allowed to come here unless there is a reason. Leave quickly. The moment Chu Fengmian stepped into the sacred mountain, an elder in charge of guarding the sacred mountain looked at Chu Fengmian's cultivation with disdain in his eyes. I see that you're a newcomer this year, so it's normal that you don't know the rules. You're not allowed to enter the sacred mountain casually, so you should leave quickly. Chu Fengmian looked at the elder and said directly, I am here to cultivate in the sacred mountain. After saying that, Chu Fengmian took out his identity token and handed it directly to the elder in charge of guarding the sacred mountain. What? You are here to cultivate? The sacred mountain elder was a little surprised when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Among the disciples who came to the sacred mountain to cultivate, there were very few inner sect disciples. Only seed disciples and even core disciples could frequently come to the sacred mountain to cultivate. Some inner sect disciples might need to save up for several years to exchange for a chance to cultivate in the sacred mountain. There had never been an outer sect disciple who came to cultivate in the sacred mountain. It was not that outer sect disciples were not qualified. All disciples of the Biming Academy could exchange for the right to cultivate in the sacred mountain as long as they paid enough merit points. It was the same for outer sect disciples. However, ordinary outer sect disciples would only receive a few dozen merit points after completing a task. It was simply impossible for them to accumulate 10,000 merit points. The elder couldn't help but remind him. Even if it is your first time to exchange for the right to cultivate in the sacred mountain, it will still cost 10,000 merit points. Do you know that? Chu Fengmian nodded and said, Of course. The elder took Chu Fengmian's identity token doubtfully and injected spiritual energy into it. A number appeared on the token. You really have 10,000 merit points? Where did you get them? The mountain guardian elder asked in shock when he saw the numbers on the screen. I should be able to exchange for the right to cultivate in the sacred mountain, right? Chu Fengmian looked at the elder and said, It costs 10,000 merit points to cultivate in the sacred mountain for the first time, right? Chu Fengmian heard about the cultivation in the sacred mountain from Tuoba Ding, but Tuoba Ding himself had never entered the sacred mountain to cultivate. Therefore, Chu Fengmian wasn't sure if it was right. Yes, of course you can. The elder calmed down a little and picked up a token and handed it to Chu Fengmian. From now on, you will cultivate in the sacred mountain for a total of 7 days. You must leave after 7 days. Otherwise, someone will enter the sacred mountain and take you out. Don't be greedy and forget about the time. Once you exceed the time limit, you will be triggered by the sect. You can choose from innumerable caves. However, you're not allowed to disturb the caves that are occupied. Just choose the ones that are empty. The guardian elder reminded Chu Fengmian and opened a restriction. Chu Fengmian took the token and walked in. As soon as he entered the sacred mountain, Chu Fengmian felt that the spiritual energy was unbelievably rich. A casual breath of spiritual energy from Chu Fengmian was comparable to the medicinal efficacy of dozens of 9 cauldron pills. With a wave of his hand, countless sparkling pills were condensed in his hand. The effect of each pill surpassed that of the 9 cauldron pills. If Chu Fengmian were to condense pills here in 7 days, he would be able to condense hundreds of millions or even billions of pills. However, this cultivation opportunity was not easy to come by. Chu Fengmian certainly wouldn't waste this kind of time. With a move, he walked up the sacred mountain. Chapter 488. The sacred mountain was huge, and there were countless cave dwellings in it. There were big and small cave dwellings, and each of them was different. There was no fixed cave dwelling in the sacred mountain, so one could choose freely. Of course, Chu Fengmian would choose a cave dwelling with rich spiritual energy to cultivate. The spiritual energy of the 9 Supremes Golden Mountain is the richest in the sacred mountain. Let's go there and have a look. Chu Fengmian muttered inwardly as he walked towards that direction. The 9 mysterious Golden Reverence Mountain was the region with the densest spiritual aura in the entire sacred mountain. Chu Fengmian entered the mountain and took a look around. Countless cave dwellings had already been occupied. Looks like there's no cave dwelling in the 9 Supremes Golden Mountain for cultivation. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself and was about to leave to look for other cave dwellings. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy on the 9 Mystic Golden Supremacy Mountain. Then, a figure flew out from one of the caves. The figure glanced at Chu Fengmian, then flew out of the room. He ignored Chu Fengmian. Someone just left. What a coincidence. Chu Fengmian smiled. His figure moved and walked towards the cave dwelling that the person just left. It seemed that his luck was not bad. He happened to meet someone who had just finished cultivating and came out. Let's go. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered, and he flew directly toward the cave mansion. However, at almost the same time, the figure of a young man suddenly walked in from outside. The man was wearing a long robe and a jade crown. At the same time, he saw the only empty cave dwelling. Not bad. There's actually an empty cave dwelling in the 9 Supremes Golden Mountain. The young man glanced at Chu Fengmian. When he saw that Chu Fengmian was wearing an outer disciple's robe, his eyes were filled with disdain. With a move of his body, he also rushed towards the cave residence. Stop! The young man abruptly waved his large hand. Suddenly, a surge of spiritual energy sealed off the empty cave, directly blocking Chu Fengmian outside. Chu Fengmian frowned and looked at the young man. From the young man's robe, he should be an inner disciple. His strength was on par with Bai Xian. He should be an inner disciple ranked in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. It wouldn't be easy for Chu Fengmian to deal with such a person. However, Chu Fengmian had no intention of backing down. He was the one who saw the cave dwelling first. It wasn't Chu Fengmian's character to give it away. Boy, this cave dwelling is mine. Go look for another cave dwelling. The young man looked at Chu Fengmian with eyes full of disdain. He didn't put an outer disciple like Chu Fengmian in his eyes at all. He looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was the ruler of the world. His tone was no different from an order. An outer disciple is not qualified to cultivate on the 9 mysterious Golden Supremacy Mountain. For you, any cave abode is more than enough. Really? I was the one who set my eyes on this cave abode first. You should go look for another one. Chu Fengmian shook his head and completely ignored the young man's words. What? The young man looked at Chu Fengmian with anger and roared. His arrogance made Chu Fengmian speechless. This person was just an inner disciple. Listening to his tone, one would think that he was the dean of Beimeng Academy. Martial artists who could establish themselves in Beimeng Academy were all geniuses. It was normal for them to be arrogant. However, the young man in front of him was simply arrogant to the extreme when he roared after failing to snatch someone else's cave abode. Talking to you like that? Who do you think you are? Chu Fengmian smiled disdainfully. This cave dwelling is mine. You don't have to think about it anymore. This cave dwelling was very useful to Chu Fengmian. Even if it was useless, Chu Fengmian wouldn't give it to this arrogant young man. If people respect me, I will respect them. If people offend me, I will offend them. Chu Fengmian wouldn't give up this cave dwelling today. Damn it! An ant in the wind-controlling realm, a mere outer disciple, actually dares to contend with me? Dong Ichi said angrily. Get lost. If you don't, I'll cripple your cultivation. Dong Ichi? Chu Fengmian glanced at this young man and suddenly understood his identity. Dong Ichi was a genius ranked 8th on the Earth leaderboard. Although he was one rank lower than Bai Xian, his strength was on par with Bai Xian. But today, let alone a martial artist ranked 8th on the Earth leaderboard. Even if he was ranked 1st on the Earth leaderboard and dared to be so arrogant in front of Chu Fengmian wouldn't give up this cave dwelling. Ranked 8th on the Earth leaderboard? I thought you were ranked 1st on the Earth leaderboard. How dare you be so arrogant and cripple my cultivation? I like to see how you're going to cripple me, Chu Fengmian said with disdain. His eyes didn't put Dong Ichi in his eyes. Damn it, you deserve to die. Dong Ichi let out a crazy roar. His face instantly turned cold, and his eyes were burning with anger. Suddenly, all the spiritual energy in his body was activated. Get lost. Dong Ichi's palm suddenly condensed and slammed towards Chu Fengmian. This palm contained the ultimate martial arts. When this palm was mobilized, it contained the essence of martial arts. This martial Tao didn't come from his comprehension, but rather, it came from Dong Ichi's bloodline. In his bloodline, he had inherited an extremely glorious martial Tao. Martial arts family? Acquired martial body? Chu Fengmian said directly when he saw Dong Ichi attack. Dong Ichi didn't have an ordinary physique. He should have come from a powerful martial arts family. His bloodline contained the martial arts passed down by his ancestors. This kind of physique and bloodline was the acquired martial body. Although it couldn't be compared to the innate divine body, it was still much stronger than ordinary martial artists. Especially in terms of martial arts, it was like standing on the shoulders of a giant. His starting point was extremely high, and his future martial arts attainments wouldn't be bad. Oh, you can see that I have an acquired martial body? Dong Ichi sneered when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. It's good that you have some knowledge. Otherwise, you won't know who defeated you. King Wu Qinxuan, come here. The martial arts in Dong Ichi's palm suddenly changed. It turned into a huge spiritual energy and grabbed at Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian seemed to feel that the surrounding space was bound by the power of this palm, making it impossible for him to escape. Innate martial body. I might be a little afraid. It's just an acquired martial body. Break. Chu Fengmian moved and waved his hand. A wave of spiritual energy suddenly shot out. Under this wave of spiritual energy, Dong Ichi's palm was directly shattered. Chapter 489. A mere acquired martial body. Who do you think you are? Your martial Tao is no threat to me. Chu Fengmian shook his head, and the disdain on his face grew. The acquired martial body was a martial arts family. For ordinary warriors, they were unreachable and could only be looked up to. After all, having an acquired martial body meant that they were born with martial Tao. When facing an enemy, their strength was much stronger than warriors of the same realm. However, this acquired martial body was useless in front of Chu Fengmian. In terms of martial Tao experience, Chu Fengmian had inherited the sword intent from his previous life. In terms of martial Tao experience, he was much stronger than these acquired martial bodies. In terms of strength, Chu Fengmian had the battle dragon bloodline, which was comparable to an innate divine body. Dong Ichi had an advantage over other warriors, but it was meaningless in front of Chu Fengmian. To be able to break my martial Tao, it seems that I have underestimated you. Unfortunately, even if you have some brute force, so what? Dong Ichi looked at Chu Fengmian and moved his feet. Suddenly, he sent out a palm attack towards Chu Fengmian. From Dong Ichi's mouth, he suddenly shouted the word martial. When he shouted the word martial, it was as if the martial Tao of the world was completely in his hands. The acquired martial body was because Dong Ichi's family was powerful and had given birth to countless martial Tao experts. Only then could this martial Tao be left in the bloodline for him to inherit. In terms of mobilizing martial Tao, Dong Ichi had a unique advantage compared to ordinary people. Kid, I'm just giving you a chance. I didn't use my full strength to let you know the difficulties in retreat. Dong Ichi's martial Tao was released. Suddenly, his spiritual energy condensed on his right fist. Since you don't know how to appreciate favors, Then I'll completely cripple you. I'll let you know the difference between us. Dong Ichi sent out a punch. His eyes became very serious. His eyes were swollen and filled with killing intent. Martial Dao Universe. Boom! This punch directly bombarded Chu Fengyan. When the punch was sent out, it exploded the space. Martial Dao was everywhere. It was as if a supreme martial god had descended. If this punch was in the outside world, the space would have been shattered. Fortunately, this was the Northern Mang Academy, where the space was incomparably tough. Even so, the surrounding space seemed to have been shaken. One could tell how powerful Dong Ichi's punch was. The target of this punch was Chu Fengyan's chest. He wanted to shatter Chu Fengyan's spiritual vein and cripple Chu Fengyan's cultivation. Although Dong Ichi's strength is not bad, his character is too vicious. Looks like he won't have a good ending today. Chu Fengyan looked at Dong Ichi's hand and thought to himself. Chu Fengyan's eyes became a lot colder. His eyes were full of killing intent. Since there was no way he could have a good ending, Chu Fengyan might as well not think about it anymore. He wanted to completely defeat Dong. Battle Dragon Claw. A thought passed through Chu Fengyan's mind, and 1,296 drops of ancient war dragon essence blood abruptly condensed in front of him. They turned into a war dragon claw and slapped out. Boom! The appearance of this claw was almost silent. It suddenly condensed and smashed down. It caused not Dong and the others to be shocked. Dragon Clan's martial skill? Dong Ichi's eyes were filled with jealousy. So you're just a kid with good luck. You think you can fight against me just because you've obtained some Dragon Clan's martial skills? Those who dare to go against me, Dong Ichi, will only face destruction. Firmament Martial Path. Dong Ichi let out a long roar. Suddenly, an incomparably huge nation appeared behind him and supported him. The power of Chu Fengyan's Battle Dragon Claw dissipated instantly in front of Dong Ichi as it was directly dissolved. Martial Path Nation? Chu Fengyan frowned. He suddenly realized what Dong Ichi's transformation was. Dong Ichi had actually condensed a Martial Path Nation with his Supreme Martial Path to resist the power of Chu Fengyan's attack. The power of Chu Fengyan's Battle Dragon Claw was directly transferred to the Martial Path Nation. Therefore, it was directly neutralized. This person's family is incomparably powerful. The power of his bloodline is actually enough to support his martial path to this stage. Chu Fengyan looked at Dong Ichi and thought to himself. Dong Ichi's martial path most likely came from his bloodline. There were also strong and weak martial path families. At least, Dong Ichi's martial path family was definitely extremely powerful. However, no matter how powerful Dong Ichi's background was, it had nothing to do with Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan wouldn't care about anyone who dared to go against him. Kid, your strength is indeed not bad to be able to force me to this stage. This is definitely not something a small outer disciple can do. However, no matter how strong you are, this is the end for you today. Today, I'll completely cripple you. Let's see how you're going to go against me. The moment the martial path space appeared, Dong Ichi laughed wildly. With the support of the martial path space, he was almost in an invincible position. Dong Ichi's hands once again condensed countless spiritual energy and bombarded Chu Fengyan. In my martial path, be defeated in front of my bloodline. A trash like you will never be able to defeat my bloodline. Dong Ichi sneered and launched another punch towards Chu Fengyan. This punch created countless strange phenomena in the heavens and the earth. Each and every one of the exquisite martial techniques were infused into this punch. 100 Battle King Fist. That punch contained the power of over 100 exquisite martial skills. Only Dong Ichi, with his postnatal martial body and martial arts attainments that surpassed ordinary people, could use this punch. Dong Ichi laughed ferociously. Die. Ridiculous. Hearing Dong Ichi's words, Chu Fengyan sneered. Dong Ichi's bloodline was indeed powerful, but it only made Chu Fengyan slightly amazed. Battle Dragon Martial Firmament. Everyone is a dragon. Dragons dance. Chu Fengyan let out a long roar, and a dragon's roar sounded. The power of the battle dragon was pushed to the extreme, and suddenly, Chu Fengmian turned into a real dragon. In the sky, Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy also turned into countless real dragons. For a moment, the dragons danced together, creating a strange phenomenon in the heavens and the earth. This huge dragon's aura pressed down and suppressed Dong Yiqi's martial path. Even the power of Dong Yiqi's bloodline was suppressed in front of the dragon's aura. It was as if Dong Yiqi's bloodline had encountered an even nobler bloodline, causing it to cower in fear and not dare to appear. Chapter 490. The ancient battle dragon bloodline was comparable to the innate divine body. Even though Chu Fengmian had only awakened 1% of the battle dragon bloodline, it was still incomparable to the acquired martial body. The dragons roared, shaking the heavens and the earth. At the same time, Dong Yi could feel that his bloodline was being suppressed. His martial Tao had been completely destroyed. The martial Tao that Dong Yiqi had been relying on was so weak in front of Chu Fengmian. He started to retreat. Puff! Dong Yiqi's chest trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was powerless in front of the dragon's might. His strongest bloodline had been completely restrained. The current Dong Yiqi no longer had the ability to contend with Chu Fengmian. How is this possible? How could my bloodline be suppressed by someone else? What is his bloodline? True dragon bloodline? No. Even in front of Long Weiyang, my bloodline was not suppressed to this extent. Dong Yiqi shouted crazily. He could not believe it. Long Weiyang was a seed disciple. She had a high status in the Beimeng Academy. However, Dong Yiqi's bloodline was enough to compete with her. But now, Dong Yiqi's bloodline was being suppressed in front of Chu Fengmian. This meant that Chu Fengmian's bloodline was even more powerful and noble than Long Weiyang's. I don't believe that I will be defeated by a small, outer disciple. Dong Yiqi shouted angrily. His spiritual energy burst out, and countless martial Tao gathered in front of him. He was accumulating his strength to make a last stand. Martial breaking the firmament. The strength in Dong Yiqi's body rose and finally reached a limit. The strength in his bloodline was squeezed to the extreme and burst out. Dong Yiqi had accumulated all his strength in this punch. It was his strongest attack. He threw out a punch, and the fist wind roared. The terrifying fist wind seemed like it was going to tear Chu Fengmian apart. However, Chu Fengmian stood where he was, leisurely strolling in the courtyard. His face was extremely calm. He merely waved his hand, and a palm fell. The dragon's might in the sky immediately gathered together and turned into a huge battle dragon's claw that slammed down. Break! Chu Fengmian indifferently spat out a word. Boom! Dong Yiqi's martial Tao was instantly shattered. He had gathered all his strength to unleash his final punch. In the face of this battle dragon claw, they were crushed mercilessly without any chance of survival. This is the North Sea Academy. I won't kill you. However, you will still have to kneel on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. Repent properly. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed. With a thought, the power of his palm pressed down. Dong Yiqi, whose martial Tao had been destroyed, had no strength left to resist Chu Fengmian. In an instant, his strength had completely dissipated. Under the pressure of this palm, his body was trembling. No, I was born in a martial arts family. His bloodline was incomparably noble. I won't kneel. Dong, he roared crazily. He couldn't accept the dignity of being born into a martial arts family. His spiritual energy exploded as he tried to resist. Oomph. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. With a thought, a force that was several times stronger than before suddenly slammed down. Dong Yiqi's body couldn't resist anymore. Kacha! His knees were directly broken. With a bang, he knelt on the ground. In this sacred mountain, he was firmly suppressed by this force. Kid, I'm going to kill you. Dong Yiqi knelt on the ground. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stand up. He crazily roared and cursed. You will never be able to imagine the strength of our boss. Even if you hide in the North Sea Academy, you will still die. Our boss's people will completely kill you. They will crush your bones and scatter your ashes. Shut up, Chu Fengmian sneered. With a wave of spiritual energy, he completely sealed Dong Ichi's mouth. He couldn't speak anymore. Only his eyes could see that Dong Ichi was now full of resentment. He looked at Chu Fengmian and couldn't wait to crush Chu Fengmian's bones and scatter his ashes. For these 7 days, you will kneel in this sacred mountain. Chu Fengmian glanced at Dong Ichi. With a move, he directly left and entered the cave mansion of the 9 mysterious golden mount. Everyone who entered the sacred mountain only had 7 days to cultivate. Now that Chu Fengmian made Dong Ichi kneel outside for 7 days, his cultivation in the sacred mountain was completely ruined. Boss, so what if you're a martial arts family? When my strength is further improved, I will not put this martial arts family in my eyes. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. He glanced at the structure of the cave, then set up another layer of restriction formation. After he finished setting up layer after layer, Chu Fengmian said. Chu Fengmian slowly sat down on the ground. The spiritual energy in this cave mansion was 10 times richer than outside. Chu Fengmian could see that there was an array inside. This array was directly connected to the spiritual spring below and was continuously absorbing spiritual energy from it. Chu Fengmian was sitting on this array, but he was continuously absorbing energy from the spiritual spring. Just as Chu Fengmian sat on it, there was a sudden desire in his body. At the same time, the spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's body was undergoing an earth-shattering change. Streaks of colorless spiritual energy began to transform into a golden color. Chu Fengmian understood that this was the sign of stepping into the divine power realm. The biggest difference between the Imperial Wind Realm and the Divine Power Realm was a transformation of spiritual energy. Now, Chu Fengmian's strength had already reached the peak of the bottleneck. Now that he found such an opportunity, Chu Fengmian didn't need to control it himself. The spiritual energy in his body began to transform and was ready to break through. Great! The effect of the Sacred Mountain is much better than I imagined. I can directly connect to the spiritual spring and absorb the huge amount of spiritual energy from it. In this way, I don't have to worry anymore. Chu Fengmian's mind moved and directly gave up the suppression of his strength. Suddenly, the strength in Chu Fengmian's body began to rise. Chu Fengmian had been suppressing his strength all along. He wanted to prepare until the most perfect moment before breaking through. Now, he finally didn't need to suppress it. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancient battle dragon's shadow suddenly appeared and began to crazily devour the spiritual energy. Drops of battle dragon's blood essence began to condense in Chu Fengmian's body. Chapter 491. 1,297 drops, 1,298 drops. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancient war dragon's shadow roared crazily as it absorbed the spiritual energy in the spiritual spring. It was like a starving beast that entered a flock of sheep. It began to devour countless spiritual energies and turn them into ancient war dragon's blood essence. Soon, Chu Fengmian's ancient war dragon's blood essence had turned into 1,500 drops. However, even with such power, it was still not enough for Chu Fengmian to break through the divine power realm. Chu Fengmian only felt that his body was about to explode. It was as if he couldn't bear such a huge amount of power, but he couldn't break through the bottleneck. If this continued, it was very likely that Chu Fengmian would fail in his breakthrough and directly die. Fortunately, I've already made preparations. Otherwise, I might really fail if I break through rashly. Chu Fengmian sensed the danger and sighed inwardly. He didn't dare to be careless. He directly took out the Heaven Origin Spirit Pill. If he wanted to break through the realm, he couldn't just slowly condense his energy. He could only stuff himself to death. Only with a powerful spiritual energy could he break through the bottleneck. The Heaven Origin Spirit Pill was taken out by Chu Fengmian. Immediately, Chu Fengmian opened his mouth and the pill fell into his mouth. Boom! 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 Countless explosions continued to come from Chu Fengmian's body. Each explosion was accompanied by a huge amount of spiritual energy. Chu Fengmian's body exploded, and his skin cracked open, causing copious amounts of quintessence blood to ooze out. Heaven Origin Spirit Pellet, in addition to so much spiritual energy, if given to a life and death realm martial artist, he or she would explode. However, Chu Fengmian's body had been refined by the sky crystal and was incomparably tough. Chu Fengmian's mind moved, and his face revealed a determined expression. Recover. Chu Fengmian let out a long roar. The wounds on his body were all healed. Countless blood essence also began to evaporate, turning into pure spiritual energy and condensing into Chu Fengmian's body once again. Chu Fengmian's body shattered and reformed again and again. Every time it shattered and reformed, Chu Fengmian's body seemed to become tougher. The spiritual energy in his body also gradually began to transform. 2,000 drops. The ancient war dragon phantasm behind Chu Fengmian had already condensed 2,000 drops of ancient war dragon essence blood. This had basically doubled Chu Fengmian's strength. But even so, Chu Fengmian still felt that he had yet to break through the bottleneck of the divine force realm. No matter how much Chu Fengmian's power soared, he still couldn't break through this bottleneck. He was only one step away. Boom! Rumble! Waves of spiritual energy burst out from Chu Fengmian's body, shaking the entire cave abode. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had set up countless formations and restrictions to suppress the commotion. Otherwise, the Holy Mountain's tremors would have attracted all the experts of the Northern Mang Academy. Still not enough, Chu Fengmian said through gritted teeth. Suddenly, a dragon core appeared in his hand. It was the dragon pellet that Chu Fengmian had obtained after destroying the altar. A flame ignited in Chu Fengmian's palm, and the dragon pill instantly melted, turning into pure dragon power that was swallowed by Chu Fengmian. The dragon pellet entered his mouth. The power in Chu Fengmian's body was like an erupting volcano. The power that he had accumulated for a long time was completely mobilized. In order to break through the divine force realm, Chu Fengmian didn't know how long he had suppressed his power. How long had he suppressed it? Now, the power that erupted was even more terrifying. Chu Fengmian's power had reached its peak in an instant. The power of the heavenly origin divine pellet and the dragon pellet erupted at the same time. The ancient dragon blood shadow behind Chu Fengmian condensed a total of 2,900 drops of ancient war dragon blood essence. 2,998, 2,999. The speed of condensing the ancient war dragon blood essence started to slow down. However, Chu Fengmian's mind was extremely tense. The reason for that was because Chu Fengmian knew very well that this was his final chance. If he were to fail this time around, he might end up dying. 3,000. Boom. The moment the 3,000th drop of ancient war dragon blood essence was condensed, the power in Chu Fengmian's body underwent an earth-shattering change. The spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's body was burning fiercely. However, the burning was not consuming Chu Fengmian's power. Instead, the colorless spiritual energy transformed into a golden spiritual energy after it was burned. It was a transformation. The power in Chu Fengmian's body had completely transformed at the moment when it reached the critical point. Divine Force Realm. It's done. Chu Fengmian's brows finally relaxed. The layers of space around Chu Fengmian suddenly became extremely fragile. With a wave of his hand, Chu Fengmian could break a layer of space. It wasn't because Chu Fengmian's power had become stronger. Instead, it was because his spatial law had reached a completely different level. Originally, Chu Fengmian was already unable to break through space and travel through the void in the Northern Mang Academy due to the powerful space. However, now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the Divine Force Realm, he could once again break through space. The Divine Force Realm is indeed incomparably profound. It's simply a world of difference compared to the Wind Controlling Realm. Only the current Chu Fengmian could understand the logic of everyone below the Saint Realm being ants. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Those who could truly contend against the Saint Realm being in the Wind Controlling Realm were all famous geniuses in the 9 regions. Chu Fengmian could feel that his current power was at least 10 times stronger than before. If the Chu Fengmian of yesterday were to appear again, The current Chu Fengmian could almost suppress him with a single palm strike without any suspense. With the help of the sacred mountain's power, I can wantonly devour spiritual energy. Otherwise, after leaving this place, I'll still need to look for opportunities to accumulate spiritual energy. Now that this is the best opportunity, I can't waste it. Chu Fengmian closed his eyes again and immediately stabilized himself. Once again, he activated the power of the Battle Dragon technique, causing the ancient Battle Dragon's shadow to condense again. Now that the bottleneck of the Divine Force realm had been broken, Chu Fengmian no longer needed to suppress himself. He could devour the spiritual energy without restraint. Suddenly, the ancient Battle Dragon's shadow followed the formation and dived into the sacred spring. It began to devour the spiritual energy from afar and condense the ancient Battle Dragon's blood essence. The spiritual energy in the sacred spring is so vast. I can also seize the spiritual energy from it and condense it to accumulate wealth. Chu Fengmian's mind suddenly moved. He activated his sword intent. A surge of sword intent quietly followed the formation and dived into the underground spiritual spring. Chapter 492. This array was originally meant to isolate the North Sea Academy's disciples from exploring the spiritual spring. However, even though it could isolate spiritual energy, it couldn't isolate Chu Fengmian's sword intent. This sword intent quietly entered the spiritual spring and immediately transformed into a devouring heavenly python. This devouring heavenly python was 100 meters long. When it arrived at the spiritual spring, it immediately began to frantically devour the spiritual energy within. With every mouthful of spiritual energy it devoured, countless spiritual energy was immediately sucked into the devouring heavenly python's mouth. These spiritual energies weren't refined by Chu Fengmian. Instead, they began to condense in Chu Fengmian's palm. In about 5 minutes, the spiritual energies condensed to the extreme in Chu Fengmian's palm and began to condense into a fist-sized spiritual energy crystal. This fist-sized spiritual energy crystal was condensed and compressed by Chu Fengmian to the extreme. The spiritual energy within the holy spring was originally incomparably pure. Therefore, Chu Fengmian didn't need to expend any energy to refine it. He only needed to compress the spiritual energy within to the extreme and condense it into a fist-sized spiritual energy crystal. This spiritual energy crystal, in terms of the spiritual energy contained within, was equivalent to 1,000,000,009 cauldron pills. Moreover, in terms of value, it far exceeded 1,000,000,009 cauldron pills. After all, this spiritual energy crystal was incomparably pure. There was no need to expend any energy to refine it. If it was sold outside, there would be people willing to buy it for 5 billion or even 10,000,000,009 cauldron pills. This kind of spiritual energy crystal, whether it's used for cultivation in the future or exchanging it for wealth, it's a good choice. I need to take advantage of this opportunity to condense more. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. He wholeheartedly urged the devouring heavenly python to continuously devour the spiritual energy within. One by one, the spiritual energy crystals fell into Chu Fengmian's hand and were all stored in his spatial ring. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's strength was also rising steadily. Drops of ancient battle dragon essence blood were also condensing unceasingly. 7 days. Chu Fengmian condensed the spiritual energy crystals without stopping. In the end, he condensed a total of 2,000 spiritual energy crystals. In the outside world, this was a huge fortune. Moreover, it was different from the 9 cauldron pill. For life and death realm martial artists, the 9 cauldron pill had no effect. Therefore, it didn't have much value. However, this spiritual energy crystal was extremely useful even to life and death realm martial artists. Thus, its value was already determined. 4th level of the Divine Force realm. Chu Fengmian's tightly shut eyes slowly opened, and the power in his body gradually calmed down. Right now, Chu Fengmian's cultivation realm had leaped into the 4th level of the Divine Power realm. At the same time, The amount of ancient war dragon's blood essence in Chu Fengmian's body had also reached a shocking amount of 5,000 drops. 5,000 drops of ancient war dragon blood essence was already 3 times more than what Chu Fengmian had before entering the sacred mountain. In terms of strength, it was unknown how many times stronger it was. It could be said that Chu Fengmian's trip to the sacred mountain this time was a great harvest. It's time to leave. Chu Fengmian slowly stood up. After destroying all the restrictions in the cave, he stepped outside. Dong Yiqi, who was outside the cave, had already disappeared without a trace. It seemed like he had been rescued by someone. After all, Dong Yiqi was born in a martial arts family. In this Northern Mang Academy, it was very likely that there were experts from his family. However, Chu Fengmian was no longer afraid. Chu Fengmian felt that his current strength was enough to protect himself in the hands of some high-level life and death realm experts. With such strength, he already had some status in the Northern Mang Academy. At least, he wouldn't be in existence that others could bully. With such strength, Chu Fengmian didn't need to endure anymore. It was time to show it. Just as Chu Fengmian was thinking, he suddenly felt that he seemed to be targeted by a power. This power wasn't the power of a martial artist. The vastness of it only made Chu Fengmian think of one thing. Heaven's will. This was the power of heaven's will. Rumble. Countless thunderclouds suddenly appeared in the sky. This made Chu Fengmian think of 2 words. Heavenly tribulation. Now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the divine power realm, he actually attracted a heavenly tribulation. This heavenly tribulation was something that would only happen when a martial artist stepped into the life and death realm. Because it was too heaven-defying, it would attract a heavenly tribulation. Who would have thought that Chu Fengmian would attract the attention of heavens will the moment he stepped into the divine power realm? It wanted to send down a heavenly tribulation to deal with Chu Fengmian. Rumor has it that some monstrous geniuses would attract the jealousy of heaven's will and send down a heavenly tribulation once they break through. Who would have thought that the heavenly tribulation would be sent down to deal with me the moment I stepped into the divine power realm? Chu Fengmian swept his gaze over the surroundings and suddenly frowned. Let's go. This was the Northern Mang Academy. Once Chu Fengmian crossed the heavenly tribulation again, it would likely attract the attention of many experts in the academy. Attracting a heavenly tribulation right after stepping into the divine power realm. This news would most likely shake the entire northern region, or even the entire 9 regions. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and directly broke through the space, escaping into the void. The thunderclouds above the Saint Mountain also followed Chu Fengmian into the void and slowly dissipated. However, the commotion it caused had already attracted the attention of countless experts. Tribulation clouds? Another person is going to cross a life and death tribulation, but the power of the tribulation clouds is dozens of times stronger than an ordinary life and death tribulation. Just as Chu Fengmian's figure broke through the space and disappeared, a figure flew over. It was the Mountain Guardian Elder. The Mountain Guardian Elder looked around and pondered for a moment. He couldn't help but frown and say, "To be able to attract such a tribulation lightning, I'm afraid only the top 10 of the Earth ranking or even some seed disciples can do it. But among these people, there shouldn't be anyone in the Saint Mountain. What's going on? No, this news must be reported to the Academy." The Mountain Guardian Elder pondered for a moment. Then his figure moved and disappeared. At the same time, Chu Fengmian was already in the depths of the void, constantly moving. Not long after, he came to an extremely wide and stable area in the depths of the void. Only then did Chu Fengmian stop and wait for the heavenly tribulation to descend. Rumble. Thunder roared. Black thunderclouds suddenly covered the entire depths of the void. Within the thunderclouds, streaks of lightning flashed. These streaks of lightning were densely packed. At a glance, there were at least 10,000 streaks of lightning. 10,000 lightning emperor tribulation. This heavens will really thinks highly of me. Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the sky, cursing in his heart. He had just stepped into the divine power realm, but he had already attracted the 10,000 lightning emperor tribulation. Chapter 493. The lightning tribulation was also divided into several types. Among them, the most common was the lightning tribulation with dozens of lightning bolts. Ordinary peak saints would attract this type of lightning tribulation upon entering the life and death realm. Only a few geniuses, such as North Sea Academy's Earth-ranking martial artists, would attract 100 lightning bolts upon entering the life and death realm. This was the 100 Lightning King Tribulation. Passing the 100 Lightning King Tribulation was a great opportunity. Such geniuses would be fought over by countless forces in the outside world. As for some monstrous geniuses that were hard to come by in 100 years, for example, many warriors with innate divine bodies and noble bloodlines, when they were going through a life or death tribulation, they might attract 1,000 lightning strikes. 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. In the entire North region, it might not even appear once in 10 years. Every existence that could attract 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation was a peak saint who could defeat life and death realm geniuses. Once someone passed the 1,000 Lightning's Emperor's Tribulation, their aptitude would rank at the top in the entire northern region, and they would be admired by everyone. Even in a huge force like North Sea Academy, if a disciple could pass the 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation, he would be heavily nurtured by the Academy. He would definitely be a genius among geniuses. Above the 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation, there was the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. This 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation was hard to come by in 1,000 years. Its chances were 100 times lower than 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. In fact, many people might not even have heard of it. Chu Fengmian was well-versed in ancient texts, so he knew of its existence. The 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation contained 10,000 lightning bolts within the thunderclouds. Once it appeared, the heavens and earth would change color. Those who could truly pass the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation were few and far between in the 9 regions. Each and every one of them would become a peerless expert in the future. Only the geniuses among geniuses, the evildoers among evildoers, would be able to attract them. In the entire North region, no one had attracted the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation for 1,000 years. Even in his previous life, among Chu Fengmian's countless senior brothers and sisters, there were only 3 who could attract the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. The rest were all 1,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. Every disciple of the Sword Dao Master was an existence whose name shook the 9 regions. Only 3 of them had attracted the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. Chu Fengmian knew that with the fortunate encounters he had, the bloodline of the ancient battle dragon, the force of creation, and the supreme sword intent, the tribulation he would trigger would not be small. However, he had not expected that he would attract the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Calamity just by stepping into the divine power realm. Within this tribulation cloud, the power of each tribulation thunder was comparable to that of an ordinary life and death realm martial artist. Right now, the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation was equivalent to 10,000 life and death experts attacking at the same time. This kind of power was simply terrifying to the extreme. It was a terrifying power that could shake the entire northern region. So what if it's the 10,000 Lightning Emperor's Tribulation? I want to dominate the 9 regions. What can this puny tribulation cloud do to me? Chu Fengmian raised his head, his face extremely calm. He wanted to dominate the 9 realms and trample the 7 great sects to death. Chu Fengmian naturally had to overcome this trifling tribulation lightning. Scared? Chu Fengmian had been a powerless person in his previous life, so he wasn't afraid of anything, let alone now that he was back in this life. Come on. Chu Fengmian looked at the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity in the sky with provocation in his eyes. Boom! With a deafening clap of thunder, countless tribulation thunders suddenly descended. The 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity seemed to have sensed Chu Fengmian's provocation and was burning with rage. The wrath of heavens was definitely much more terrifying than any other expert. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 bolts of tribulation lightning struck down. The bolts of tribulation lightning were as dense as raindrops as they bombarded Chu Fengyan. They wanted to completely destroy Chu Fengyan. Primordial slaughter god. Battle dragon body. Chu Fengyan suddenly roared. The primordial slaughter god was the first to condense, blocking the tribulation thunders in front of Chu Fengyan. At the same time, Chu Fengyan's body didn't dodge at all. Instead, he met the tribulation head-on. This tribulation thunder couldn't be dodged. Even if he dodged, he would be pursued endlessly. He could only face it head-on. Chu Fengyan's battle dragon art's power was pushed to the maximum. His skin started to become rough, looking like dragon scales. Fight! Chu Fengyan stepped into the tribulation thunders. Instantly, endless lightning bolts seemed to want to tear Chu Fengyan's body apart. However, Chu Fengyan waved his hand, and the energy in his body burst out, tearing the surrounding lightning bolts apart. Devour. So what if it's the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity? Today, I will use the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity to refine my body. Chu Fengyan roared and grabbed the countless lightning bolts, slamming them against his body. This collision caused Chu Fengyan's flesh to burst open. Countless lightning bolts surged into Chu Fengyan's body. However, Chu Fengyan's face didn't change. Instead, he sneered. Refine. Traces of lightning bolts surged into Chu Fengyan's body. However, they were completely neutralized by the energy in Chu Fengyan's body. These lightning bolts all merged into Chu Fengyan's body, causing a strange purple pattern to appear on his body. Using the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity to refine one's body. This was crazy to the extreme. Even a demon-like genius would have to resist the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity with all his might. He wouldn't dare to be careless. Among the generations of geniuses, those who could attract the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity were extremely rare. However, less than 30% of these geniuses could pass the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity. Therefore, any genius would be extremely cautious when facing the 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity. They were afraid that they would be destroyed by the lightning bolts if they weren't careful. No one had ever been as crazy as Chu Fengyan, using lightning bolts to refine his body. Rumble, rumble. The 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity was infuriated by Chu Fengyan's actions. Chu Fengyan's actions were simply looking down on the heavens. The 10,000 lightnings Emperor's Calamity represented the destruction of the heavens. However, Chu Fengyan didn't care about it at all. More lightning bolts descended. Among them, countless lightning bolts turned into countless ferocious beasts. True dragon, heavenly phoenix, Qilin, tongue snake. The lightning bolts turned into ancient strange beasts. They roared and charged towards Chu Fengyan. Good timing. Chu Fengyan wasn't surprised by the arrival of the ancient strange beasts. Instead, he was delighted. The scarlet flame sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Sword intent transformation. Condense. Roar. The sword intent instantly condensed and turned into the shape of an ancient battle dragon. Chu Fengyan's sword intent had completely merged with the power of the battle dragon art, making it even more powerful. Chapter 494. The moment the primordial war dragon appeared, it let out a roar and soared into the sky. In the sky, countless lightning tribulations turned into ancient beasts and started fighting. Chu Fengyan stood in the void with his hands behind his back. His sword intent poured out. Chu Fengyan's sword intent had already reached the level of sword intent manifestation. However, Chu Fengyan had never been able to form the primordial war dragon. Although Chu Fengyan knew the aura of the primordial war dragon, he was still lacking a little. This time, after entering the divine power realm, Chu Fengyan's understanding of the battle dragon art deepened. Instantly, it was enough for his sword intent to form the primordial war dragon. The two strongest forces in Chu Fengyan's hands merged into one. When the primordial war dragon appeared and saw the countless lightning tribulations turning into ancient beasts, it roared and chased after them. His sword intent was enough to fight against the lightning tribulations. In the current 9 regions, only Chu Fengmian could do such a terrifying thing. The primordial war dragon rushed into the countless lightning beasts. It opened its mouth and bit at them. A true dragon formed by lightning was immediately crushed and turned into pure lightning energy. The primordial war dragon swallowed it and turned it into extremely pure energy to refine Chu Fengmian's body. Every time the primordial war dragon tore apart a lightning beast, Chu Fengmian's strength would rise steadily. Everyone could obtain endless benefits after passing a life and death tribulation. Although Chu Fengmian did not attract a life and death tribulation after entering the life and death realm, the effect was the same. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's heavenly tribulation was the legendary 10,000 lightning emperor tribulation. Every time it devoured, Chu Fengmian's aura would become denser and his strength would become purer. This was a tribulation. It was as if he was passing a life and death tribulation. In a few breaths' time, the primordial war dragon had crushed countless lightning beasts and integrated their spiritual energy into Chu Fengmian's body. Rumble, rumble. Rumbles could be heard from the thunderclouds, making the heavens even more furious. Suddenly, from the countless thunderclouds, almost 10,000 lightning tribulations appeared at the same time and rained down. These tribulation lightning bolts condensed into a 1,000-meter thick tribulation lightning bolt that descended. Within the huge lightning tribulation, there were actually countless sharp swords. They were the heavenly punishment swords formed by the lightning tribulation. Each of these heavenly punishment swords was enough to annihilate an ordinary life and death expert. Now, there were thousands of heavenly punishment swords in the tribulation thunder. The power contained in each of the heavenly punishment swords represented the power of heavenly punishment. They wanted to kill Chu Fengmian completely. You're finally getting serious? You have heavenly punishment, but I have good fortune. Sword of creation. Chu Fengmian's eyes snapped open as the 1,000 heavenly punishment swords descended. He communicated with the sword embryo, and the power in his body started to circulate. The moment the sword embryo in his body sensed the heavenly punishment sword, the power of creation also appeared abruptly. It surrounded Chu Fengmian's body and merged with his sword intent. Heavenly punishment originated from fortune, and the core of the heavenly punishment was precisely fortune. As soon as the power of creation appeared, Chu Fengmian's aura rose steadily. Facing the countless heavenly punishment swords, Chu Fengmian waved his hand. Countless power of creation condensed in Chu Fengmian's hand and slashed at the sky. Walala! Countless heavenly punishment swords shattered before the power of creation. They were destroyed and dissolved one after another. Everything in the world, everything is fortune. Chu Fengmian roared. The sword of creation tore through the sky and slashed out. Immediately, it split into thousands of swords of creation and slashed out at the same time. The depths of the void were filled with swords. Countless tribulation lightning bolts were severed and devoured by these swords. Blasphemy against fortune. The heavenly Tao won't tolerate it. Amidst the countless thunderclouds, a furious roar suddenly resounded. This voice wasn't a human voice, but a heavenly voice. The voice of heavens will condensed out of thin air. As soon as this voice appeared, it transformed into countless rolling thunderbolts, turning into a sea of thunderbolts that poured down in torrents. This sea of thunderbolts contained countless sea beasts. These sea beasts were similarly formed from the purest thunderbolts. Each of these sea beasts was terrifying to the extreme. The strongest few of them didn't lose out to 4th-level life and death experts in terms of aura alone. Heavenly Tao doesn't tolerate it? If Heavenly Tao doesn't tolerate me, then I'll destroy you. Chu Fengmian roared. With the sword of creation in his hand, he stepped into the sea of thunderbolts. The moment Chu Fengmian stepped in, countless thunderbolts followed his body and swept over with a roar, intending to destroy him. However, Chu Fengmian's body trembled. His dragon's might condensed, and the surrounding thunderbolts completely dissipated. Chu Fengmian was inside the sea of thunderbolts, but these thunderbolts simply couldn't approach his body. These sea beasts are all the power of the lightning tribulation. Very well, I'll kill these sea beasts and thoroughly devour the power of the lightning tribulation. Chu Fumian coldly shouted. His feet moved, and he directly rushed towards the sea beasts. Boom! Countless thunderbolts sensed Chu Fumian's actions and condensed their power, wanting to resist. However, Chu Fumian's sword broke through countless thunderbolts. These thunderbolts were far from being able to stop Chu Fumian's power. A sword suddenly slashed towards one of the gigantic sea beasts. In an instant, that incomparably huge sea beast was directly killed. Countless thunderbolts flowed out from within, and Chu Fumian saw a trace of colorless spiritual energy with a glance. The power of creation. This was the power of creation contained within the heavenly tribulation. Condense. Sword embryo. Forge the sword body. Chu Fumian opened his mouth wide and swallowed the power of creation into his body. Sword cultivators were different from other martial artists. When other martial artists stepped into the divine power realm, they would condense a domain. The power of the domain was the manifestation of their power. However, as a sword cultivator, once he stepped into the divine power realm, he would have to break the sword embryo, forge the sword body, and condense his own sword origin. His sword embryo was forged with the power of creation. Now that he was borrowing the power of the heavenly tribulation, he wanted to break the sword embryo and condense the sword body. Rumble. Countless thunderbolts were devoured by Chu Fumian. The origin of these thunderbolts belonged to the power of creation, and Chu Fumian had integrated it into the sword embryo. Suddenly, the sword embryo broke through the critical point. The outer shell suddenly shattered, and a 3-inch small sword suddenly condensed in Chu Fumian's mind. Chapter 495. The 3-inch sword was pocket-sized, but contained unparalleled power. The power of creation. The 3-inch sword was formed from the power of creation. It also contained Chu Fumian's sword realm. This was Chu Fumian's natal sword energy. The natal sword energy contained all of Chu Fumian's power. It was formed from the most powerful power of creation. It was more powerful than any powerful sword cultivator in history. Even a master of Sword Dao, the Sword Dao's natal sword energy, could not compare to the natal sword energy formed from the power of creation. In the history of the 9 regions, Chu Fumian was probably the only crazy person who dared to use the power of creation to form the natal sword energy. Chu Fumian stood up and finally revealed a smile on his face. After forming the natal sword energy, Chu Fumian finally dared to call himself a sword cultivator. Only by forming the natal sword energy could one be considered a true sword cultivator. Chu Fumian scanned his surroundings and said in his heart, "Sword energy, out." The 3-inch sword suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fumian. The moment the 3-inch sword appeared, the surrounding void was filled with countless sharp sword intents. The surrounding lightning was shattered by the sword intent. They were crushed, subdued, and devoured by the sword intent. Chu Fumian lifted his head and looked at the thunderclouds in the sky. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. His body moved abruptly and shot into the clouds. The 10,000 Lightning Emperor's tribulation was something that countless demon-like geniuses in the world were afraid of. But now, in front of Chu Fumian, it was used by Chu Fumian, who devoured the power to condense the natal sword origin. Kill, 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 kill. In the depths of the void, the word kill could be heard. The power of the thunderclouds was still rising. Countless huge tribulation lightning bolts, as thick as a person, were condensing. Every tribulation lightning bolt was much stronger than the previous one. The heavens was going to destroy Chu Fumian at all costs. Rumbles sounded again and again, spreading throughout the void. These countless bolts of calamity thunder fused together to form a majestic figure. The Thunder Emperor was a supreme being who could control the thunder of heaven and earth. This was the final calamity of the 10,000 Lightning Emperor's tribulation, the great trial of Lightning Emperor. The Thunder Emperor's descent was like a monarch overlooking the world. His king's aura was enough to make countless life and death experts cower in fear. They didn't even have the courage to look him in the eye. The Thunder Emperor was rumored to be a peerless expert formed from the first strand of lightning in the world during the primordial era. Even the previous master of the sword, Dao, might not have reached the level of the Thunder Emperor. He was a true, unrivaled king. Thunder Emperor's trial. The punishment of all crimes under heaven. The Lightning Emperor, formed by countless bolts of tribulation, lightning looked at Chu Fengyan with murderous intent in his eyes. Suddenly, countless bolts of tribulation lightning shot towards Chu Fengyan. The tribulation lightning was black, the deepest kind of black. It represented the lightning of a sinner, a terrifying tribulation lightning that would only appear when dealing with someone who had committed the most heinous of crimes. It rumbled toward Chu Fengyan. Guilty? Even if I am guilty, no one has the right to judge me, not even the Thunder Emperor. Chu Fengyan raised his head and roared at the Thunder Emperor. Before the true Thunder Emperor, I'm not afraid. What can a mere Thunder Emperor condensed from lightning do? Chu Fengyan let out a long roar in the face of the Thunder Emperor, who was overlooking the world with boundless might. Not only was he not afraid, he directly charged towards the Thunder Emperor in the sky with the Sword of Creation in his hand. Before the Thunder Emperor, even the strongest existence would be afraid. After all, the Thunder Emperor represented the trial of heaven's will. Everyone revered heaven's will. In front of the Thunder Emperor, they trembled, their hearts filled with fear. Countless geniuses in the past had died during the 10,000 Lightning Emperor's trial, the great trial of the Lightning Emperor. However, there was no fear on Chu Fengyan's face when he faced him. His heart was as calm as still water, and he was extremely calm. In his opinion, this Thunder Emperor was no different from any of the enemies he had encountered before. As long as there was no fear in his heart, the Thunder Emperor was no more than an emperor of lightning. Chu Fengyan wanted to be the emperor of the 9 domains. How could he let others control and judge him? Die. Limitless sword. Chu Fengyan held the Sword of Fortune in his hand and broke through the air. In an instant, he charged into the sky and slashed at the Thunder Emperor. This slash of his had already surpassed an ordinary sword edge. When the slash was made, there was no sword edge. However, in the next instant, the surrounding void seemed to be distorted. The sword edge split into millions and was buried in every region of the void. When it appeared at the same time, it slashed at the Thunder Emperor from all directions. No matter who you are, you won't be able to escape the trial. The Thunder Emperor's eyes were filled with rage as he looked at Chu Fengyan. Blasphemy! I'll die for betraying you. Rumble. The Lightning Emperor was enraged. Endless thunderbolts split out from his body and exploded one after another. The entire void was filled with the sound of countless thunderbolts exploding. These countless explosions surrounded Chu Fengyan's body, wanting to blow him into pieces. Countless weapons descended from the sky. These weapons were formed by countless bolts of tribulation lightning, and they were all aimed at Chu Fengyan. Endless explosions and countless weapons bombarded Chu Fengyan at the same time, wanting to kill him. Don't even think about judging me. 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation, destroy them all. Chu Fengyan roared. His aura changed completely. He was incomparably dignified and his eyes were extremely clear. The Sword of Fortune in his hand slashed out instantly. Countless thunderbolts exploded in the surroundings and weapons were all destroyed by the sword. All of the power was devoured by Chu Fengyan and integrated into his body. And you, Thunder Emperor, you will be devoured by me too. Chu Fengyan looked at the Thunder Emperor and rushed over. The Sword of Fortune in his hand pierced into the Thunder Emperor's body. Rumble. Endless lightning exploded. The Thunder Emperor's body was destroyed instantly, splitting into countless lightning tribulations and exploding. The entire void seemed to be vibrating. An extremely terrifying aura burst out from Chu Fengyan's body all of a sudden. Break! Chu Fengyan said indifferently. The surrounding lightning tribulations were destroyed, and the explosions stopped at the same time. The entire void turned silent in an instant. The 10,000 Lightning Emperor's calamity had ended. The Thunder Emperor's destruction also signaled the end of the 10,000 Lightning Emperor's calamity. Chapter 496. Suddenly, the void calmed down. Chu Fengmian's power also gradually calmed down, as though nothing had changed. However, anyone who looked at Chu Fengmian's aura would feel that something was different. It was as though Chu Fengmian had undergone an earth-shattering change. After passing the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation and destroying the Lightning Emperor, Chu Fengmian had an aura of disdain for everything. Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid at all in front of him, no matter how powerful the opponent was. If Chu Fengmian wasn't even afraid of the trial of heaven's will, what could the others do? After passing the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation, Chu Fengmian's power had changed greatly. However, it couldn't be compared to the change in his mentality. An expert must have the mentality to remain calm, even if Mount Tai were to collapse in front of him. Otherwise, if he were to encounter an expert, he would be fearful and would not have any chance to fight back. He had finally entered the divine power realm and passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation. Chu Fengmian's heart was filled with joy. He had finally broken free from the category of an ant. Let's go. After passing the 10,000 Thunder's Emperor's trial and condensing the natal sword energy, Chu Fengmian's true records had taken another step forward. Even if he encountered the real Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling in the Void Sea, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could obtain all the opportunities within. His figure flashed and left the depths of the void in an instant. However, the effects of the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation weren't limited to this. The moment the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation passed, everyone in the 9 regions could feel it. Countless hidden old antiques opened their eyes one after another. Their eyes were filled with shock. Someone passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation. Who is it? Who is it? This aura is from the North region? To think that such a person would appear in the desolate North region. It has been 1,000 years since anyone passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation. Another terrifying expert is about to appear in the 9 regions. Some of the old antiques couldn't help but sigh when they sensed the aura. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the 9 regions were shaken. Countless news spread throughout the 9 regions within a day, especially in the North region's North Sea Academy. The aura they felt was even more obvious. Since when did such a person pass the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation in our North region? Even the first 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation was 1,000 years ago, let alone passing it. Countless old antiques in the depths of North Sea Academy were awakened and started discussing. An ancient voice suddenly appeared. The tone was filled with a hint of surprise. The 10,000 Thunder's Emperor's trial is near our North Sea College. If such a disciple appears in our Northern Mang Academy, we will definitely nurture him well. If we nurture a genius that has passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation well, he will be able to help our North Sea College compete with the 7 great sects. Soon another ancient voice sounded, and it sounded slightly disappointed. According, who is D of him? The owner of the voice was surprised. Within the Northern Territory, among the countless forces, the only ones most likely to produce such a genius were the Northern Sea Academy and the Earth Demon Sect. Although the Earth Demon Sect's influence in the Northern Territory wasn't as great as the Northern Sea Academies, no one dared to compete for the second position. If such a genius appears among the disciples of Earth Demon Sect, we have to kill him. Earth Demon Sect has always been suppressed by our North Sea Academy, but their forces have grown stronger. Once such a genius grows up, the Earth Demon Sect will have another expert. It will be enough to contend with our Northern Mang Academy. A murderous voice could be heard all of a sudden. Such a genius must be killed. A series of discussions took place. Silence. The most authoritative voice sounded and suppressed all the discussions. News from Earth Demon Sect. They're also looking for the person. Looks like he isn't a disciple of Earth Demon Sect. If he isn't a disciple of our North Sea Academy or Earth Demon Sect, he must be a genius who had a fortuitous encounter. Such a genius without any forces should be roped in. If we can get him to join our North Sea Academy, we will have a chance to compete with the 7 major sections. Quickly send people to search for this person. We can't let the Earth Demon sect get ahead of us and find him. If we can't get him to join us, kill him. Otherwise, he will be a disaster. The voice was firm, and it was an unquestionable order. No one dared to refute his words. Yes, countless voices sounded at the same time and left. At the same time, in another underground cave, a few experts were talking to each other. The 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation has appeared. Someone has passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. This person isn't a disciple of North Sea Academy. He must be a genius who had a fortuitous encounter. Find him and bring him to our Earth Demon sect. If we can find him and nurture him, we can use him to deal with North Sea Academy. Toppling North Sea Academy is just around the corner. There are many such voices. Almost all the forces in the North region were discussing who had passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation, roping in, stifling countless different opinions. In less than a day, the entire North region was bustling with activity. It had been 1,000 years since the North region was so lively. Today was the day that the 9 regions were truly shaken. Chu Fengyan, who was at the center of all this, had no idea that his passing of the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation had caused such a huge commotion. He only broke through space and returned to North Sea Academy. Once Chu Fengyan returned to North Sea Academy, he noticed the jade talisman in his spatial ring vibrating. He opened it and saw that it was Bai Xian calling for him. Chu Fengyan, my cave dwelling is in the 5th grade mountain range, Cloud Mountain Range. Come to my cave dwelling. Bai Xian's voice rang out. After that, there was no more sound. Chu Fengyan moved and immediately arrived at the 5th grade mountain range, Cloud Mountain Range. Almost without making a sound, he entered the place. There were countless restrictions and arrays set up in each of these cultivation mountains. If it was in the past, Chu Fengyan would have to wait for Bai Xian to bring him in. But now, Chu Fengyan had stepped into the divine power realm and passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor Tribulation. His strength had increased tremendously. These restrictions and arrays were like children's toys in front of Chu Fengyan. They couldn't stop Chu Fengyan at all. Chu Fengyan easily passed through the restrictions and arrays and arrived at the Cloud Mountain Range. He searched for Bai Xian's aura and came to Bai Xian's cave dwelling. Chapter 497. Chu Fengyan arrived in front of Bai Xian's cave dwelling and revealed his aura. He did not hide it anymore. At this moment, Bai Xian noticed Chu Fengyan in front of her cave. Oh, even Bai Xian's face was filled with surprise. You've made a breakthrough. I didn't expect you to break through the restriction of the Cloud Mountain Range. Looks like your accumulation in the Imperial Wind Realm can't be underestimated. With the restrictions on the Cloud Mist Mountain Range, even Bai Xian herself would find it difficult to sneak in. But now, Chu Fengyan was able to sneak in without making a sound. This was beyond Bai Xian's expectation. It's just a small breakthrough. With my strength, I could have entered the divine power realm long ago. I'm just accumulating my strength. Chu Fengyan said casually. He wasn't humble. After all, being humble would only make others look down on him. Since he was going to explore the void ocean with Bai Xian to find Dragon Emperor Yan's cave, Chu Fengyan had to at least show his strength that was on par with Bai Xian. Only then would there be room for cooperation. Entering the divine power realm, with your current strength, it's only a matter of time before you become an inner disciple. You should be able to rank in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. That's good too. Originally, some people had some doubts about your strength. But now, your strength is enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with us. Bai Xian said with a smile. You and Han Yueli are 2 monsters. I don't know where you came from. Each of you is more monstrous than the other. What's going on with Yueli? Chu Fengyan was stunned when he heard Bai Xian's words. He didn't know much about Han Yueli, but judging from Bai Xian's words, she seemed to know something. Bai Xian was an inner disciple after all. She was considered an elder in the Baiming Academy. Naturally, her information channels were much better than Chu Fengyan's. Although Chu Fengyan had asked around in the Baiming Academy, he didn't know much. After all, Han Yueli was an elder's disciple. She had a high status. There were many things that Chu Fengmian didn't know. You don't know? Looks like she's still cultivating in the secret realm. That's why she didn't have time to tell you. Bai Xian was a little surprised when she heard Chu Fengmian's words. Actually, I heard about it from my master. My master is Elder Hong Jun of the Baiming Academy. He is an old friend of Elder Bing Li. That's why I know some things. Actually, when Junior's sister Han Yueli came to the Northern Sea Academy, she was sent to the Northern Sea Secret Realm to cultivate by Elder Bing Li of the secret realm of Baiming of the Dragon Academy. The Baiming Academies was cultivation of the Baiming Academies. Was of the Baiming Academies was. Of the Baiming was of the Academies. S. As long as you was of course was T. B of TS. Looks like Elder Bing Li really wants to nurture Han Yueli. She actually sent her to the Northern Sea Secret Territory. It was no wonder that Chu Fengmian couldn't find any information about Han Yueli. The secret realm wasn't something that Chu Fengmian could come into contact with right now. While Chu Fengmian thought to himself, Bai Xian continued to speak. Yesterday, Han Yueli crossed the life and death calamity in our Baiming Academy's secret realm and stepped into the life and death realm. Moreover, Han Yueli crossed the Thousand Thunder Emperor calamity. Bai Xian's words were like a clap of thunder, causing Chu Fengmian's face to reveal a bit of shock. Han Yueli had broken through to the life and death realm and attracted the Thousand Thunder Emperor calamity. Although the Thousand Thunder Emperor calamity couldn't compare to the 10,000 Thunder Emperor calamity, it could only attract geniuses among geniuses. Han Yueli's aptitude was indeed good. She had drawn out the profound, cold energy in her body and attracted the Thousand Thunder Emperor calamity. Once she crossed it, it would bring great benefits to Han Yueli's future. After entering the life and death realm, with Han Yueli's aptitude, she wouldn't be weaker than some third or fourth layer life and death experts. Her strength in the Baiming Academy might have already surpassed ordinary elders, and her status would soar. Han Yueli's status is no longer below that of many elders. She has even received the attention of some old fogies of the academy. They have already announced her promotion to seed disciple. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian. Seeing that there wasn't any worry on his face, only joy, she couldn't help but exclaim, "You're not worried? What should I be worried about?" Chu Fengmian smiled casually. The stronger Han Yueli was, the happier Chu Fengmian would be. At the very least, her status in the Baiming Academy would rise, and she would be a lot safer. After all, Han Yueli had the profound cold body, an innate godly body. To many martial artists, this was a great temptation. The stronger Han Yueli was, the more relieved Chu Fengmian would be. Han Yueli's current status has already surpassed yours and mine. She has received the attention of many old fogies of the Baiming Academy. I'm afraid she might become a core disciple. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian with a strange light in her eyes. Although you've broken through, you're still only at the fourth layer of the divine power realm. There's still a big gap between you and the life and death realm. At most, you can become an inner disciple. It's said that many core disciples of the Baiming Academy are pursuing Han Yueli. Even the number one core disciple, the leader of the Saint faction, Yi Tianjun, is pursuing her. Your relationship with Han Yueli isn't as simple as a friend, right? Aren't you worried? Bai Xian was also observing Chu Fengmian's expression when she spoke. Any change in Chu Fengmian's expression couldn't escape her eyes. But what made her disappointed was that Chu Fengmian's expression didn't show any worry or jealousy. There wasn't even any change. There was only an extremely calm and confident smile. I'm happy that Yueli's status has risen. As for the others, if they dare to have any ideas about Han Yueli, only death awaits them. Chu Fengmian calmly said. However, there was a chilling, murderous intent in his voice. Even Bai Xian couldn't help but shudder the moment she felt the killing intent. Chu Fengmian's cultivation was only at the fourth layer of the divine power realm. But when Bai Xian heard his voice, her heart was filled with fear. It wasn't that Chu Fengmian wasn't worried or jealous, but he was confident that he would kill anyone who dared to have any ideas about Han Yueli. Even if it was the number one core disciple, Yi Tianjun, Chu Fengmian would kill him sooner or later. Chapter 498. An outer disciple, a divine power realm martial artist, dared to say that he could kill Yi Tianjun. If Bai Xian were to hear this from someone else, she would probably be laughing so hard that she could not breathe. Who was Yi Tianjun? He was the #1 disciple of the North Sea Academy, a core disciple with an innate godly body. Chaos godly body. This chaos godly body was one of the top 10 innate godly bodies. Chu Fengmian's strength had reached the peak of life and death realm. In terms of true strength, he had even surpassed the life and death realm. Not to mention an outer disciple, even an inner disciple or sea disciple would be dreaming if they dared to say that they could deal with Yi Tianjun. But now, Chu Fengmian's words revealed boundless confidence. This confidence stunned Bai Xian, but she couldn't refute it. This person's aptitude is indeed high. Perhaps he won't be weaker than Yi Tianjun after he matures. Even if he can't contend against Yi Tianjun in the future, he'll still have some achievements in the North Sea Academy. It's not a bad choice to befriend him, Bai Xian thought inwardly. She already understood Chu Fengmian's character a little. What was more valuable was that he wasn't like many martial artists who would betray their friends for benefits. Chu Fengmian had always valued friendship. This was the most valuable trait among martial artists. If one befriended Chu Fengmian, at least he wouldn't stab them in the back. That was why Bai Xian was willing to rope Chu Fengmian in and invite him to explore the Void Ocean and Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. Although Han Yueli's matter was sensational, there's another even more sensational matter in the North Sea Academy. I wonder if you've heard about it. Bai Xian purposely kept him in suspense. Chu Fengmian naturally knew that it was about the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation. However, he pretended to be at a loss and said casually, "Oh, I just left the Saint Mountain. I wonder what happened in the North Sea Academy. It seems like you don't know, but it's normal for you to cultivate in the Saint Mountain." Bai Xian slowly said, her eyes filled with shock. "It's not about our Northman College. It's about the entire North region and even the 9 regions. A genius has passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation. 10,000 Thunder Emperor's calamity? Are you a disciple of our North Sea Academy?" Chu Fengmian pretended to be shocked. "Who is it? I don't know. He's not a disciple of our Northman Academy. Countless elders of the Northman Academy have already left the academy to investigate," Bai Xian said. "Even many of the old antiques in the college have come out to find out who passed the 10,000 Thunder Emperor's trial. This person should not be from that large faction. Therefore, not only our Northern Mang Academy, the Earth Devil sect, and countless other factions in the northern region are also searching for traces of this person." Although Bai Xian's words were filled with envy and jealousy, most of it was a sigh. Although this person has passed the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation, he has attracted quite a number of calamities. I'm afraid that no matter which force he joins, he will be hunted down and assassinated. A genius who has passed the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation. If he matures, he will definitely be able to influence the current situation of the North region. No faction is willing to give birth to such a terrifying expert. After hearing Bai Xian's words, Chu Fengmian's heart was drenched in cold sweat. Chu Fengmian was originally overjoyed that he had passed the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation. However, after hearing Bai Xian's words, Chu Fengmian finally understood. Although he had obtained countless benefits from this, he had also encountered many dangers. A genius who could pass the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation would be able to influence the North region and even the 9 regions once he matured. Just like how Chu Fengmian belonged to the Northman College. If he announced this news, the Northman College would definitely nurture Chu Fengmian. However, a faction like the Earth Devil sect, which was hostile to the Northman College, would also go crazy to assassinate and kill Chu Fengmian. No matter how well protected they were, when faced with the pursuit of a colossal force, there was only one way for them to survive. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian didn't reveal this news. He also understood the commotion of passing the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation. However, after hearing Bai Xian's words, Chu Fengmian understood that this news was far more terrifying than he had imagined. The news of me passing the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation cannot be exposed. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly. He had passed the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation in the endless void. Therefore, no one would know. As long as Chu Fengmian didn't reveal it, he would be extremely safe. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was still in the divine force realm and hadn't reached the life and death realm. Therefore, even if there were suspicions, they wouldn't suspect Chu Fengmian. However, this gave Chu Fengmian a reminder. Right now, Chu Fengmian had more and more fortuitous encounters, but once they were exposed, it would be extremely troublesome. The Emperor Jar, Battle Dragon Art, Power of Fortune, and Chu Fengmian had passed the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation. If any of these were exposed, it would cause a commotion in the 9 regions. Chu Fengmian had to protect these secrets well. Actually, the time of your breakthrough was extremely close to the appearance of the 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation. The moment Bai Xian spoke, she couldn't help but take a few more glances at Chu Fengmian. At that time, I still had some suspicions that the person was you. However, you had only broken through to the divine force realm and couldn't have attracted the heavenly tribulation. If you had broken through to the life and death realm at that time, I would have thought that the person would definitely be you. Although Bai Xian's words seemed to be a casual conversation, there seemed to be a faint probing hidden within them. Chu Fengmian sneered in his heart, but revealed a smile on his face. How is that possible? The 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation? When I passed the life and death Great Tribulation, I was already very fortunate to attract the 100 Thunder Emperor tribulation. The 10,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation isn't something that an ordinary martial artist like me can attract. You don't have to be so polite. Your aptitude isn't much lower than Han Yueli's. There's an extremely high possibility that you'll attract the 1,000 Thunder Emperor tribulation in the future. At that time, you'll also be nurtured by the Academy. Bai Xian smiled. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. You and I haven't even reached the limit of the divine force realm, let alone the life and death Great Tribulation. Let's go. If we continue chatting, they'll probably get impatient. The place we've agreed on is the periphery of the Void Ocean. Let's go over first. The Void Ocean. I can finally see its true appearance. Chu Fengmian's heart was filled with longing. He had long wanted to take a look at the legendary Void Ocean. Let's go. 2 streaks of light instantly disappeared from the North Sea Academy. Thanks. Champ's Allegiance? A reward. Chapter 499. The Void Sea was not in the North Mang Academy. It was in a mysterious space in the vast North region. Ordinary people would not be able to find the way to enter the Void Sea. Fortunately, there was a map of the Void Sea in the Northern Mang Academy. With Bai Xian's guidance, the 2 of them flew in the northern region. After flying for a full day, they finally arrived at a calm wasteland. In this wasteland, the 2 of them broke through space and arrived at a completely different void. Who would have thought that the Void Sea, one of the most mysterious places in the North region, was hidden behind this seemingly calm wasteland? It was different from the ordinary Void Sea. The size of the space in the ordinary Void Sea was created by the martial artist's spiritual power. However, the Void Sea in front of them was so huge that they could not see the end of it. It was simply a space created by nature. The spatial turbulence was also much stronger. Without the strength of an ordinary peak saint, one would not be able to resist the spatial turbulence in the Void Sea. Only those whose strength had reached the peak saint realm could explore the Void Sea. The Void Sea is extremely dangerous. There are countless spatial turbulences. We must constantly use spiritual power to resist them from afar. Let's find a place to rest first. After arriving at the Void Sea, Bai Xian's expression became a lot more solemn. She looked around and then flew in a direction with Chu Fengmian. Although there were countless fortuitous encounters in the Void Sea, the dangers were far greater than the North region. Even a life and death realm expert could die if they were careless. Chu Fengmian followed Bai Xian and flew toward the Void Sea. Chu Fengmian was still new to this place, so it was better for him to follow Bai Xian. The 2 flew carefully in the Void Sea for a while. Then, a huge rock suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengmian. There were many inns built on top of the rock. At a glance, there were at least 1,000 warriors on top of it. This is, Chu Fumian asked in surprise. He hadn't expected that there would actually be an inn in this extremely dangerous void ocean, a place where one could rest. Inside, countless warriors were resting, eating, and drinking. There were even some shops for warriors to buy and sell. It was a bustling small city. This is one of the countless gathering places in the void ocean, Starry Sky Peak. This meteorite is a special product of the void ocean. It can withstand the turbulence in the void ocean. Some cultivators use this meteorite to build inns, tea houses, and even do business there. Bai Xian explained with a smile when she saw Chu Fumian's surprised expression. Anyone who had never been to the void ocean would find it hard to believe that there was a place to rest in such a dangerous place. Bai Xian had also been surprised when she had first come here. The more dangerous the void ocean is, the more we need a place like this. We can rest and recuperate here to ensure our safety. Let's go over first. As Bai Xian spoke, she descended towards the starry sky peak with Chu Fumian following closely behind. Halt! As soon as he landed on Starry Sky Peak, two martial artists suddenly flew over. These two martial artists were much stronger than ordinary peak saints. At the very least, they were strong enough to contend with Tuoba Ding. In the void ocean, even the weakest existence had the strength of a peak saint. Bai Xian smiled casually when she saw the sudden appearance of the two warriors. Apparently, she was used to it. She moved her palm and handed over a golden, fist-sized mystical item. This mystical item was called the Golden Sandstone. Although it was only considered to be below average among the mystical items, it could be sold for millions of 9 cauldron pills outside. She did not expect that the simplest transaction in the void ocean would require a mystical item. The weakest martial artists in the void ocean are at the peak of the saint realm. Experts at the life and death realm can be found everywhere. Even some high-level life and death realm experts will appear in the void ocean. To such an expert, ordinary 9 cauldron pills are naturally meaningless. Thus, the simplest transaction is to rely on mystic items. Who doesn't have a few mystical items when they reach the peak saint realm? They can also exchange them for what they need. Bai Xian explained. Chu Fumian nodded after hearing her explanation. It was his first time coming to the void ocean, so he did not know the countless rules here. Bai Xian's explanation made him understand a lot. Indeed, 9 cauldron pills were of no use to Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian was prepared to exchange them for other mystical items that were useful to him. So it's Miss Bai Xian from the Northern Sea Academy. The two venerables seemed to recognize Bai Xian and greeted her. The rules of the Starry Sky Peak are the same. The two of us are just following orders. Please don't take offense, Miss Bai Xian. Of course, I know the rules of the Starry Sky Peak. Here are 2 golden sandstones. Just take them as our fee. Bai Xian took out 2 golden sandstones and handed them over. At the same time, she whispered to Chu Fumian. Junior brother Chu has just joined the Beimang Academy. I'll pay for it this time. The two venerables glanced at Chu Fumian's unfamiliar face and sized up Chu Fumian's realm. Their eyes flashed with disdain. He was courting death by coming to the void ocean with only the cultivation of the 4th level of the divine power realm. However, he was brought by Bai Xian. As long as he paid the mystical item, it was fine even if he was an ordinary person without cultivation. However, if he died in the void ocean, it had nothing to do with the Starry Sky Peak. Senior sister Bai Xian has helped me many times. I don't need to trouble senior sister Bai Xian this time. Chu Fumian suddenly took out a piece of black metal and handed it to the two warriors before Bai Xian could. This is black mysterious gold. Its value has exceeded 2 golden sandstones. Just take it as our fee. Black mysterious gold. The two warriors were slightly surprised when they saw the piece of black metal that Chu Fumian handed over. The value of the black mysterious gold was much higher than the golden sandstones. Moreover, compared to the golden sandstones, the black mysterious gold had a great advantage. It was versatile. Although many mystical items were extremely valuable, they weren't needed by everyone. Even if they were valuable, it was difficult to find a suitable buyer. However, the black mysterious gold could be added into the refining of countless spiritual weapons. Therefore, there was no need to worry about sales. In terms of value, it was definitely much higher than the golden sandstones. Chapter 500. Enough, enough. One of the venerables saw the black profound gold and hastily took it. The black profound gold's value was equivalent to the expenses of 10 people. This time, the two of them could still earn quite a bit. One of the venerables hesitated for a moment, then suddenly took out an elite stone from his spatial ring and handed it over to Chu Fengmian. This stone was square in shape, about half the size of a fist. It was extremely neat and contained an extremely pure spiritual power. This is a mid-grade spirit stone. Consider it your extra money. The honorable martial artist said as he handed over the middle-grade spirit stone. Take it, Bai Xian quietly said from the side. Hearing Bai Xian's words, Chu Fengmian nodded. He took the mid-grade spirit stone and entered the Starry Sky Peak. There were many experts in the Starry Sky Peak. However, most of them gathered in small groups of 5 or 6 people. There weren't many lone wolves. Chu Fengmian was clear about this point. After all, the void ocean was incomparably dangerous. If one explored alone, the chances of dying were extremely high. If one had a few companions, it would be easier to deal with the dangers. However, such companions had their pros and cons. Although they could resolve the danger, they were more often the source of the danger. Once they discovered a huge fortune, it was possible for them to kill each other. If one wanted to explore, it was best to find trustworthy people. I didn't expect you to have such wealth. Even I wouldn't be so extravagant as to take out the black profound gold as the expenses. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian and said with a smile, those two are smart enough to take back your mid-grade spirit stone. However, they can still deduct a portion of your wealth. Before joining the academy, I had a fortuitous encounter, Chu Fengmian casually said, not wanting to explain. Chu Fengmian's wealth, even excluding the 9 cauldron pills, was far more than ordinary peak saints and even life and death experts. After all, Chu Fengmian controlled more than half of the wealth of the Qin Empire. He had even destroyed the Su family and obtained their wealth. He also had the wealth of the flower-seizing venerable and dark ancient demon venerable. His wealth was simply overflowing with oil. He had countless rare items. This black profound gold was simply a drop in the bucket for him. He naturally wouldn't care about it. What Chu Fengmian cared about was the mid-grade spirit stone. It was very similar to the spirit stone he condensed from the Saint Mountain. However, when it came to the grade of the spiritual power, it was far inferior. The spiritual stone that Chu Fengmian condensed was many times purer than this middle-grade spiritual stone. This middle-grade spirit stone is... Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and couldn't help but ask. Tuoba Ding had never explored the void ocean before, so Chu Fengmian could only ask Bai Xian about the void ocean. Was it? Is not is? Is not is? Is not was? Is not was not is? Is not is? Was? New? For warriors like us who have reached the pinnacle of the saint realm, ordinary pills are no longer useful. Only this kind of spiritual stone is useful for our cultivation. The spirit stone in your hand is only a mid-grade spirit stone. Its value isn't high. With our strength, we can condense it with some time. There are also upper-grade spirit stones and supreme-grade spirit stones. According to the rules set by the experts in the North region, these spirit stones are cut into half a fist-sized cubes as currency. Above supreme-grade spirit stones are king-grade, royal-grade, emperor-grade, and so on. This kind of high-grade spirit stone is not something we can condense. We can only obtain it from the countless treasures in the void ocean. Each of them is priceless. As Bai Xian spoke, she waved her hand, and a sparkling and translucent spirit stone appeared in her hand. The spirit energy of this crystal-clear spirit stone was many times purer than that of the mid-grade spirit stone. This is a king-grade spirit stone I obtained by chance in an ancient cave abode. Back then, that spirit stone was cut apart, and I only got this one. It's considered a pretty good treasure. I'm planning to save it for when I'm trying to break through to the limits of the divine force realm before the life and death calamity. As Bai Xian spoke, she didn't try to hide anything and explained everything in detail. Is this spirit stone a king-grade spirit stone? Chu Fengmian looked at the king-grade spirit stone and thought to himself. Suddenly, his mind moved, and he took out a spirit stone the size of a fist. Then, what grade is this spirit stone? This spirit stone was one of the countless spirit stones that Chu Fengmian had condensed from the divine, sky-devouring python using the sword essence in the Holy Spring. In terms of the purity of spiritual power, the spiritual power of this spiritual stone was not inferior to that of a king-grade spiritual stone. Bai Xian was shocked when she saw the spirit stone in Chu Fengmian's hand. King-grade spirit stone. It's a very high-grade spirit stone among the king-grade spirit stones. It's only a step away from the royal-grade spirit stone. Where did you get it? It's such a big one. It's comparable to 2 standard spirit stones. Where did you get such a spirit stone? This kind of spirit stone can only be found in some ancient cave mansions. Bai Xian was very surprised. She had wandered in the void ocean several times and had only seen a king-grade spirit stone once. She could only get a small portion of it. The spirit stone that Chu Fengmian took out was twice as big as the one she had. Its spirit energy was also much purer. I found this royal-grade spirit stone in an ancient cave. How much is it worth? Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and thought to himself. He could tell from Bai Xian's reaction. The value of the spirit stone must be very high. It could be used to make money. As long as one had enough wealth, one could buy many rare items. These spirit stones would be of great use to Chu Fengmian after he refined them. However, it would be better if he could buy some rare items that were suitable for him. With the support of an endless supply of rare items, Chu Fengmian's cultivation speed would be much faster than ordinary martial artists with his battle dragon skill. A king-grade spirit stone is enough to exchange for a lot of wealth. This spirit stone of yours is even bigger than 2 king-grade spirit stones. It's enough to exchange for a good rare item. Bai Xian was very envious when she spoke. I thought you wouldn't have much wealth since you just joined the North Sea Academy. I didn't expect you to have enough wealth to make me envious. Chapter 501. If senior sister Bai Xian likes it, I'll give this king-grade spirit stone to you. Chu Fengmian casually smiled and handed over the king-grade spirit stone. After all, he had devoured a lot of spirit chi in the spirit spring, so he had more than 2,000 such spirit stones. He didn't care about such a small piece. No need. This opportunity belongs to you. To be able to reach your current strength, who doesn't have many opportunities. I won't take your things. Bai Xian saw Chu Fengmian's action and casually smiled. Let's go. They should be here already. As she spoke, Bai Xian led Chu Fengmian to the biggest tea house on Star Sky Peak. Miss Bai Xian has arrived. As soon as they entered the tea house, they saw 2 young men sitting inside. Of the 2 young men, one had surging water chi around his body. He was clearly a martial artist who cultivated a water cultivation method. The other had a peerless sword intent. He was clearly a sword cultivator. The 2 were both at the 9th layer of the divine power realm. Their strength wasn't any weaker than Bai Xian's. In fact, the sword cultivator was even stronger than Bai Xian. In terms of strength, he was much stronger than a first-layer life and death realm martial artist. This kind of strength clearly came from a big force. This is Sikong Xian, a genius from the Sikong family, a huge martial artist family in the North region. He's extremely strong, above me. When Bai Xian saw the 2, she quietly explained to Chu Fengmian through sound transmission. This Sikong Xian was the sword cultivator. His sword intent had clearly reached an extremely high level. Sikong family's people. Chu Fengmian's eyes also revealed some seriousness. The Sikong family was also a well-known force in the North region. Although they weren't as famous as the North Sea Academy and were extremely low-key, their martial artists weren't weak. Among the martial artist families, Sikong family was ranked at the top. However, they had very few disciples, so they couldn't directly contend with the North Sea Academy. However, it was rumored that Sikong family also had high-level life and death realm experts. Therefore, the North Sea Academy wouldn't take the initiative to provoke Sikong family. This is Lin Mu, an inner disciple of our North Sea Academy. He's ranked 6th on the Earth ranking. Bai Xian sent a voice transmission to him once more. I was the one who discovered the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave abode with them. However, I'm not familiar with them, so you have to be careful. Bai Xian could not help but remind him. She had no enmity with Chu Fengyan. Moreover, Chu Fengyan had a clear personality. Bai Xian had always treated Chu Fengyan well, so Chu Fengyan would definitely not bite the hand that fed him. However, these two people were different. People like Chu Fengyan were in the minority after all. If they really encountered a great opportunity, the possibility of them falling out was extremely high. That was why Bai Xian was here to remind him. Between warriors, there were very few true friends. Many of them were just using each other for benefits. Once they encountered benefits, they would fall apart again. Yes, Chu Fengyan nodded. Although he wouldn't bite the hand that fed him, Chu Fengyan was still aware of this precaution. He couldn't even completely trust Bai Xian, let alone these two. Bai Xian, is he the helper you called? The Beimeng Academy's disciple, Lin Mu, looked at Chu Fengyan and snorted coldly. If I'm not wrong, this person should be the newcomer king this year. He's just an outer disciple of the 4th level of the divine power realm. It's already difficult for him to travel in the void ocean. Isn't bringing him to ancient Yin Dragon Emperor's cave abode the same as courting death? Lin Mu raised his brows and said, Ancient Yin Dragon Emperor's cave abode is incomparably dangerous. It's even more dangerous than the void ocean. Bai Xian, you've seen how dangerous it is. He'll just be a burden if we bring him there. Bai Xian listened to Lin Mu's words and said calmly, I naturally know about the dangers in ancient Yin Dragon Emperor's cave abode. This Chu Fengyan is a good helper. His strength is at least in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. Top 10 of the Earth ranking? Lin Mu's eyes were slightly shocked when he heard Bai Xian's words. He's only at the 4th level of the divine power realm. If he can become the newcomer king, his strength should be pretty good. However, it's not that easy to be in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. Are you joking? The top 10 of the Earth ranking were all influential figures in the inner sect. Many of them had to cultivate for dozens of years or even hundreds of years before they could climb to this position. People like Bai Xian and Lin Mu had to cultivate for dozens of years before they could step into the top 10 of the Earth ranking. Now, Chu Fengyan was a newcomer, and Bai Xian said that he was in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. How could Lin Mu believe this? Brother Lin Mu is right. It's not that we don't trust Miss Bai Xian. It's just that a brat at the 4th level of the divine power realm wants to be on equal footing with us. It's indeed a joke. Sikong Xian also stood up and spoke in a cold voice. Strength isn't something that can be bragged about. You have to at least display your strength to be in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. Display my strength? Brother Sikong, you have to be careful. Chu Fengyan snorted when he heard Sikong Xian's words. Suddenly, he condensed the ancient battle dragon's blood essence and turned it into the battle dragon force. Rumble. In an instant, the battle dragon claw was condensed. However, the battle dragon claw was compressed by Chu Fengyan to the size of an arm. It was as though it had turned into his right hand. In an instant, it struck towards Sikong Xian. Sword. Facing the battle dragon claw, Sikong Xian coldly snorted. He suddenly pulled out his sword and slashed out. Bang! The two forces collided. For a moment, they were evenly matched. Soon after, the power of the battle dragon claw slowly suppressed Sikong Xian's sword. The moment it suppressed Sikong Xian's sword, the power of the battle dragon claw was retracted by Chu Fengyan and completely dissipated. This sword only contains 30% of my strength. To be able to suppress 30% of my strength, your strength is at least in the top 20 of the Earth ranking. It's not impossible for you to be in the top 10 of the Earth ranking. Sikong Xian coldly said, This strength is barely enough for you to be on equal footing with us. Since Miss Bai Xian has chosen you, there's no need to doubt it. After speaking, Sikong Xian sat back down and continued to drink the tea on the table. Sikong Xian's words were extremely conceited. The meaning behind his words was that it would be easy for him to defeat Chu Fengyan if he used his full strength. He only reluctantly agreed because of Bai Xian's face. 30% of his strength? Barely enough? Hearing those words, Chu Fengyan sneered in his heart. The strength he displayed just now was not even 1/10 of his true strength. Today's 4th update. Everyone has urged me to write more chapters. Tomorrow, I'll add more chapters. Chapter 502. If Chu Fengmian used his full strength, that palm strike was enough to kill Si Kongxian. However, an expert like Si Kongxian wouldn't be as simple as he appeared to be. Coming from martial arts family, Chu Fengmian must have his own trump card. If Chu Fengmian really wanted to kill him, he would need to use some means. However, if Chu Fengmian really wanted to kill him, Si Kongxian would die. Since Brother Si Kong said so, it's fine. Anyway, this person cultivates the Dragon Clan's martial skills. He might be useful in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave mansion. Lin Mu glanced at Bai Xian and said, "However, if this kid dies in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave, don't blame us for not saving him. Dragon Emperor Yan's cave is extremely dangerous. If we save him, he might drag us down with him. If he drags me down with him, I'll be the first to kill him." Lin Mu snorted coldly. His words were extremely arrogant. After saying that, Lin Mu sat back down and continued to drink his tea. "The helpers that you two called for aren't here yet." Bai Xian swept her gaze around as she slowly opened her mouth to speak. Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling was discovered by Bai Xian, Lin Mu, and Si Kongxian. Due to the various dangers and difficulties within, the three of them decided to each find another helper to help them. "The helpers I called are almost here. Miss Bai Xian, don't worry." Si Kongxian smiled and looked outside. He suddenly pointed outside and said, "Look, ha ha ha, Miss Bai Xian, don't worry. I just encountered a void beast in the void ocean. It took me some time to kill it." A voice suddenly came from the sky and fell into the tea house. This was a man dressed in luxurious clothes. Every move he made gave off an immense pressure. Chu Fengmian felt that this man's strength was likely even stronger than Bai Xian, Si Kongxian, and the others. "Young Master Yin, you actually came to the North region?" Seeing the man, Bai Xian's face was filled with astonishment. At the same time, Bai Xian secretly transmitted her voice to Chu Fengmian. "This is young Master Yun, a prince from the southern region imperial family. Although he sometimes comes to the north region, I didn't expect Si Kongxian to invite him here." When Bai Xian mentioned young Master Yun, there was a deep sense of fear in her tone. This young Master Yun's methods are vicious. You have to be careful, or else you might be used by him and be consigned to eternal damnation. "Oh." Chu Fengmian sized up young Master Yun. This young Master Yun had a dignified appearance and always had a slight smile on his face, which made people feel good about him. However, Chu Fengmian detected a hint of viciousness in young Master Yun's eyes. No matter how well he hid it, Chu Fengmian could easily catch it. Obviously, young Master Yun was not a kind person. "It doesn't matter. Whoever dares to deal with me will die." Chu Fengmian coldly snorted and walked back to Bai Xian. "This time, Brother Yun was specially invited by me. Our Sikong clan has some ties with the southern region royal family. After Brother Yun heard about Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling, he was very interested and was invited here." Si Kongxian said with a smile. The southern region was different from the northern region. Although there were many countries in the northern region, the real powerhouses were the Northern Mang Academy and the Earth Demon sect. It could be said that the northern region was represented by the Northern Mang Academy. On the other hand, the entire southern region belonged to a country. Countless sects and forces within the southern region were controlled by the royal family of this country. Young Master Yun was born in the royal family of the southern region. However, there were thousands of young masters in the royal family of the southern region. Young Master Yun was just one of them. "Of course, I'm interested in exploring Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling." Hearing Bai Xian's question, young Master Yin smiled casually and glanced at Chu Fengmian. Then, he sat on the chair and continued to wait and drink his tea. "There's only one person left. Lin Mu, who did you invite? Why isn't he here yet?" Now that 5 people had arrived and only one person was left, Bai Xian could not help but ask. Although Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling has not been discovered yet, it's still very dangerous if we continue to delay. "Bai Xian, don't worry. You'll know when that person arrives." Lin Mu smiled and said, "That's right. Bai Xian, you should change your impatience." Another figure suddenly descended from the sky. Chu Fengmian could actually detect a kind of chaotic energy from this figure. It was similar to the energy of the chaotic seed that Chu Fengmian had seen from Tuoba Ding, but it was much stronger. Luo Chun, it's you? Bai Xian recognized the figure at a glance. Number 1 on the Earth ranking, Luo Chun. There was no need for Bai Xian to explain. The moment he heard the name, Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the person. Luo Chun was the number 1 inner disciple of the Northern Mang Academy, the number 1 on the Earth ranking. Luo Chen's strength was also at Divine Power Realm level 9. However, his strength was obviously higher than Bai Xian's. Especially the chaotic energy in his body, it was much harder to deal with. Luo Chan is from the same party. You have to be careful. He might be targeting you. Bai Xian secretly transmitted her voice to Chu Fengmian. The leader of the Saint Party, Yi Tianjun, has always been chasing after Han Yueli. However, with your relationship with Han Yueli, you're Yi Tianjun's number 1 enemy. Luo Chen might target you in order to get on Yi Tianjun's good side. Oh, Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. The moment he saw the chaotic energy in Luo Chen's body, Chu Fengmian guessed it. He secretly activated his spiritual consciousness and probed Luo Chen's body. There was a chaotic seed in the depths of Luo Chen's body. It was obviously given to him by Yi Tianjun. However, Luo Chen's position in the Saint Party was much higher than Tuoba Ding's. Tuoba Ding could only borrow a part of the chaotic energy. But now, Luo Chen seemed to have mastered the chaotic energy. With the chaotic seed in his body, Luo Chen could be considered as half a chaotic divine body. Luo Chen landed and greeted everyone present. Suddenly, when he looked at Chu Fengmian, his eyes began to flicker as if he was thinking of something. A murderous intent slowly emerged in Luo Chen's eyes. Since everyone is here, then let's get ready to set off. Xikong Xian looked at everyone and said, just as he stood up and was about to leave, wait, today's first update. Although it's late, it will definitely be completed. Chapter 503. Luo Chen suddenly spoke as he swept his gaze across the crowd. Suddenly, his gaze landed on Chu Fengmian. Luo Chen stretched out his hand and pointed at Chu Fengmian. Everyone here is a genius disciple from the same place. There's no harm in working together. But this person is just a piece of trash at the 4th level of the Divine Force realm. What qualifications does he have to be on equal footing with us to explore Dragon Emperor Yan's cave? Luo Chen looked at Chu Fengmian and said in disdain, Kid, I'll give you a chance today. I won't let you come here for nothing. Kneel down and serve me as your master. I'll bring you to explore Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. If you perform well, I'll give you some of the treasures. How about it? Hearing Luo Chen's words, everyone's face revealed a playful smile. Lin Mu and Bai Xian of the Beimang Academy were clear about the reason behind this. Especially Lin Mu. He seemed to have expected this. He was looking at Chu Fengmian with the attitude of watching a good show. Arrogant. Your master hasn't even said anything. You're just a dog, and you dare to provoke me? Chu Fengmian's face turned cold. Since Luo Chen dared to provoke him, he wouldn't be afraid of anything. Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of falling out. Not to mention a mere inner disciple. Even if a seed disciple of the Beimang Academy came, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be afraid. Courting death? A mere outer disciple dares to resist in front of me. Luo Chen snorted and stood up. His aura was completely locked on Chu Fengmian. Suddenly, he clawed at Chu Fengmian. The grab contained an extremely dense amount of chaotic power. When the claw was unleashed, the heavens and earth turned into chaos. This chaotic energy instantly formed an incomparably huge cage. It swept towards Chu Fengmian, wanting to suppress Chu Fengmian completely. A mere outer disciple dares to contradict me. I'll punish you by sealing you in this chaos cage for 100 years. That's your punishment. Luo Chen's face revealed a mocking smile. His eyes looked as if Chu Fengmian was already in his grasp. Chaos cage. Luo Chen used his chaotic energy right from the start. It seems like they're planning to take him out in one go. With this person's strength, even if he's in the top 10 of the Earth board, it's meaningless. Luo Chen is ranked first on the Earth board. Suppressing him is a piece of cake. Lin Mu, young Master Yun, and Sikong Xian discussed among themselves and shook their heads. Luo Chun had used his full strength when he attacked. The Chaos Cage was extremely troublesome for the three of them to deal with. How could a brat at the 4th level of the Divine Force realm be able to contend against Luo Chun? Only Chu Fengmian was sneering. You want to suppress me with just a little bit of the power of chaos? What a joke. Even Yi Tianjun couldn't do it. You think you can? Even a small cage can be broken. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. In the face of the pressure from the Chaos Cage, Chu Fengmian did not dodge. Instead, his feet moved and he directly charged forward. The Battle Dragon bloodline condensed in Chu Fengmian's body and turned into a Battle Dragon claw on his arm. Then, he struck out with the claw. Boom! Under Chu Fengmian's claw, the Chaos Cage was torn apart. Under the might of the Battle Dragon, the Chaos Cage was instantly torn apart. You dare to take action against me? You want to seal me for 100 years? All right, I'll take half of your blood essence. Let's see if you still dare to be arrogant in the future. After defeating the enemy with a single move, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate and moved once again. After the Battle Dragon Claw tore apart the Chaos Cage, it struck out once again. It was aimed at Luo Chen's chest and suddenly clawed. This claw suddenly blasted out. In an instant, it hit Luo Chen's chest. A huge pressure firmly suppressed Luo Chen's body, leaving him with no way to escape. What martial technique is this? How exquisite! It's different from the ordinary dragon clan's martial technique. His claw is no different from a real dragon's. Sikong Xian looked at Chu Fengmian's claw, and the contempt on his face was swept away. He was extremely shocked. It wasn't that martialists couldn't learn the dragon clan's martial technique. However, even if they learned it, they could only imitate it, and it looked extremely clumsy. Only some martialists who possessed the true dragon bloodline could unleash the true power of the dragon clan's martial technique. However, it was only similar in appearance, but the intent was different. When Sikong Xian first saw Chu Fengmian's claw, he felt that it was a real dragon clan's martial technique. It didn't look like something a venerated martialist could unleash. Sikong Xian thought about it, but he couldn't figure out what martial technique Chu Fengmian's claw was. Only Chu Fengmian knew that the Battle Dragon Claw wasn't a martial technique. It was created by Chu Fengmian himself. Chu Fengmian possessed the Battle Dragon bloodline and cultivated the Battle Dragon technique. In fact, he was no different from an ancient Battle Dragon. The Battle Dragon Claw was a claw that Chu Fengmian casually unleashed using the instinct in his bloodline. However, the ancient Battle Dragon was incomparably powerful. They fought crazily, and their battle experience was extremely strong. Even the instinct in their bloodline was more refined than countless martial techniques. The Battle Dragon Claw was simply the most perfect technique that suited Chu Fengmian. Rumble. The Battle Dragon Claw had already forced Luo Chun into a desperate situation. Luo Chun also didn't expect that Chu Fengmian's strength would reach such a level that it could easily tear apart his chaotic cage. This caused him to be a little dazed for a moment. However, facing the threat of the Battle Dragon Claw, he quickly regained his senses. At this critical moment, Luo Chun began to display his strength as the #1 on the Earth ranking. Saint Seed's power, chaotic heavens, and Earth. In Luo Chen's body, the power of the chaotic seed was directly stimulated. It caused the spiritual energy in his body to instantly rise crazily. Suddenly, countless chaotic energies burst out from Luo Chen's body. These energies were condensed into a single point and condensed on his fist. Chaotic Divine Fist. In a single punch, Luo Chun suddenly burst out. This attack was extremely ferocious. It contained an incomparable chaotic energy that caused others to feel as if they were going crazy. Saint Seed. This is the unique secret technique of the Sacred Faction. Luo Chun has finally activated it. Seeing the change in Luo Chen's body, everyone present wasn't too surprised. The members of the Sacred Faction all had a unique secret technique that could activate the Saint Seed and increase their strength. Naturally, they knew about it. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.